Chapter 4388. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the ancient tree. This time, she deeply felt. A scorching hot shiver came from her fingertips. It was the profound phoenix ring. The profound phoenix ring's activity. This also indicated that Xian, he had reached the heaven realm, and the distance between them wasn't far. Most importantly, under the situation where she didn't have any profound energy. The profound phoenix ring could still sense Xian. Yi Qing Luo couldn't suppress the excitement in her heart. But, facing Zhu Wu Xian, she couldn't show any signs of it. Moreover, it seemed that the moment she left the boundary of this ancient tree, the scorching sensation on her fingertips would disappear. Which meant to say, the connection with the profound dragon ring was the strongest here. Yi Qing Luo didn't have any profound energy, so she couldn't use her mental energy to sense where the profound dragon ring was. But she could sense it, which meant that Dmo Xian, who was wearing the profound dragon ring, could sense it. She had to delay for a period of time here, to fight for more time for Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo's heart was surging with various emotions. But on the surface, she didn't show any of it because of Zhu Wu Xian. She raised her head slightly and met Zhu Wu Xian's concerned eyes as her lips curled into a smile, filled with a thick sense of ridicule. You really treat me as a prisoner. No matter where I go, I have to be in your line of sight? Zhu Wu Xian's lips moved as he wanted to say something. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, he swallowed it back. Yi Qing Luo sneered as she shot a cold glance at Zhu Wu Xian. She and Zhu Wu Xian had separated for at most 2 instances time. Zhu Wu Xian came looking for her. Was it because he couldn't give her too much alone time? Or was it because she touched the barrier and attracted Zhu Wu Xian's attention? Or perhaps Zhu Wu Xian knew that Dmo Xian had come to the heaven realm and was searching for her whereabouts. So he panicked, anxiously looking for her, wanting to ascertain if she was still around? Yi Qing Luo indicated that it was most likely the third guess. She squinted her eyes slightly as a cold glint flashed across her long and narrow eyes. The words that came out of his mouth were still so harsh. I said, I just want to be alone. I don't want to see your face. You just woke up and your body is still very weak. Zhu Wuxin's voice softened. Go back to your room and rest first. Don't be exposed to the wind for too long. I know my own body. Yi Qing Luo raised her head slightly. I know that there's an enchantment set up outside your residence, and I'm someone without any profound energy, so there's no way for me to pass through your enchantment, so you don't need to worry about me leaving. As she spoke, the mockery in her eyes intensified. Zhu Wu Xian's brows creased tightly as his grave and stern face was filled with helplessness. I'm only concerned about you. Yi Qing Luo, can you not use such words to stab me? Yi Qing Luo sneered. From the moment you schemed against me, haven't you already expected that there would be such an outcome? If you don't want to listen to me, then let me out. Impossible. Zhu Wuxin's expression darkened. Don't even think about leaving this place. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Since you don't intend to let me leave this place, and I have no way to break the enchantment, then let me enjoy the scenery here alone. Zhu Wu Xian's expression turned even more solemn. Yi Qing Luo, I don't want to do anything that makes you hate me, so don't force me. Yi Qing Luo laughed when she heard that. Could it be that the things that he did were all forced by her? Could it be that he had betrayed her trust and was also forced by her? Didn't need to be so comical? She had almost believed this excuse, okay? Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address. Phone reading. Chapter 4389. The disdain and ridicule on Yi Qing Luo's face was totally unconcealed. In Zhu Wuxin's black eyes, there seemed to be some raging waves surging unceasingly. All of a sudden, he moved. His figure appeared in front of Yi Qing Luo. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm. That hand was the hand which was wearing the profound phoenix ring. Yi Qing Luo's expression instantly tensed up. He found out Yiqing Luo's mind was whirling as she was thinking of ways to cover up this matter, to fight for more time for Ah Xian. But at the next moment, Zhu Wuxian's hand suddenly increased the strength. Her entire body fell heavily into Zhu Wuxian's firm chest. His arm pressed down on her with extreme force, making her unable to move at all. A faint plum fragrance invaded all her senses. She wanted to struggle, but in exchange, the man hugged her even more tightly. She almost couldn't breathe. "You hate me that much?" Zhu Wuxian's hoarse voice was filled with bitterness. He spoke word by word, as though he was venting the anger in his chest. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply, he pressed the person in his arms tightly as he gritted his teeth. "Even if you hate me, I will not let go of you." Yiqing Luo expressed that she was almost out of breath. At the same time as she struggled, she heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, Zhu Wuxian hadn't discovered that she and Dmo Xian had already contacted each other. But now is indeed not the time to stay here any longer. Based on Zhu Wuxian's acute character, if she continued to stay, it might possibly arouse his suspicions. Yiqing Luo hid the deep thoughts in her eyes as she pushed the person in front of her and struggled to break free from his hand. "Are you trying to suffocate me to death?" This roar was a little muffled. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have regained a trace of rationality from his crazed state. His eyes, which were as dark as a lake, seemed to be gathering light, and they shrunk little by little. This strange look made Yiqing Luo have an inexplicable strange feeling. Zhu Wuxian's hand, which was placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, was still trembling slightly. He looked at the girl in his arms, whose face was flushed red and filled with displeasure. The vortexes in his eyes grew increasingly ferocious. Suddenly, he clasped Yiqing Luo's wrist tightly, pulling her along as he took quick steps towards the courtyard which he had stayed in previously. This time round, Yiqing Luo didn't create any trouble. Instead, he cooperated and followed behind Zhu Wuxian. When Zhu Wuxian turned around, she quickly hid Qi Yan in the flower bed on the side. Perhaps Zhu Wuxian's emotions were unstable at the moment. He did not notice Yiqing Luo's little movements. Along the way, he was about 5 steps away from the ancient tree. The burning sensation coming from the profound phoenix ring on his fingertip gradually subsided. The connection was completely broken. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and stared at the profound phoenix ring, which had returned to normal as she pursed her lips slightly. Her slender fingers clenched a little tighter. "I have to find another opportunity to come here and give it a try." Just now, Ah Xian should have been able to determine her location. She was thinking about the profound phoenix ring and Dmo Xian. She totally didn't notice it. That man who was walking in front and tugging her arm had such a strange expression on his face. Sometimes his expression was grave and stern, but it was filled with pain. Sometimes his expression was twisted, as though he was struggling with something. That pair of serene black eyes had a strange glint, which kept darting about, as though it wanted to devour the man's everything. The two of them had different thoughts in their minds. In this strange silence, they returned to their original room. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 4390. The room had already been tidied up. Those portraits of Yiqing Luo on the bookshelf had all been kept away. Even the inkstone that she had knocked over and the ink splattered all over the floor had been cleaned up. Not a single blemish could be seen. Standing at the door, Yiqing Luo struggled to break free from his clamping hands. This time, Zhu Wuxian let go very quickly. After she broke free, Yiqing Luo stood at the original spot as she looked at him calmly. "Since you wanted to stay here, then prepare a room for me." "Zhu Wuxian, you stay here." "I refuse." Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with ridicule. "I stay next door," Zhu Wuxian explained. "I still refuse." Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings. "This room is filled with your scent. I don't want my body to be tainted with another man's scent." She paused as her vision swept past the study table. "Moreover, a room for someone who harbors ill intentions towards me It's scary for me to stay there. Zhu Wuxian's cold face moved slightly. His eyes were gloomy as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking, as though he was covered in frost. Yiqing Luo remained unmoved. Instead, she met his gaze and looked at him calmly. After a long time, Zhu Wuxian turned around and walked out of the room. His silhouette looked very cold and fierce. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wuxian's departing back view. She had no intention to stop him. She walked into the inner hall and sat down by the side. Her fingers caressed the profound phoenix ring. Xian. When there was no news of Xian, she could still suppress the longing for Xian in her heart. But after sensing Xian's presence, she really was unable to suppress the longing in her heart. Missed him so much, missed him so much. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers held the profound phoenix ring tightly. Heaven Realm, Tianya Ridge's entrance. A group of people stood there as pairs of gazes congealed on the man in front. The man's back was facing them, and he was as handsome as a god. His peerless face was filled with a grave expression. That pair of cold peach blossom eyes were swirling with a whirlpool. A strong gust of wind blew heavily against his purple robe. The profound wave's attack made his robe flutter. Broken? The man murmured in a low voice as he stared unblinkingly at the ring engraved with a dragon totem on his finger. War Dizun, what's broken? A group of people behind him immediately asked. If Yiqing Luo was here at this moment, he would definitely be surprised. Those brothers who had climbed up to the Earth domain with great difficulty and had yet to catch up with her had actually appeared in the Heaven domain. That group of people, aren't they those few people from the World Mercenary Group? Dmo Xian's thin lips were tightly pursed, as his eyes seemed to be surging with perilous waves. The connection with Lil Luo has been broken. Just now, the few of them followed Zhu Wuxian's last traces and rushed to World Horizon Ridge to search for Yiqing Luo. Dmo Xian had been operating the Netherworld Dragon Ring. It was the moment they arrived at the Tianyao Ridge. The Netherworld Dragon Ring reacted. It was as though Lil Luo was by his side when he wanted to use the profound dragon ring to get in touch with Yiqing Luo. But all he got was a blank space. There was no response. It could sense the profound phoenix ring, but he didn't get any response from the profound phoenix ring's owner. This made Dmo Xian's heart felt as though there was a huge rock pressing on it. Whoever knew that just as he wanted to use the profound dragon ring to locate Yiqing Luo's exact location, the connection between the dragon and phoenix rings was suddenly cut off. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 4391. Huang Fusheng's face turned pale. What happened to Luo? What did that mean? Dmo Xian's expression was solemn and cold as his eyes stared fixedly at the Netherworld Dragon Ring. I don't know, but the only thing I can confirm is that Lil Luo should have been here before. Zhu Wuxian, that scoundrel. Why did he bring Qing Luo to this kind of ghastly place for? Yin Xiao, he looked around at the terrifying dense forest as her face was filled with worry. Tianyao Ridge was the most dangerous place in the Heaven Realm. Basically, no one in the entire Heaven Realm would take things too hard and run over to Tianyao Mountain Range to train. At most, it was used to punish clan members who had made mistakes. It could be said that in the entire Heaven Realm, throwing someone into the Tianyao Ridge was the cruelest punishment. On the way to the Tianyao Ridge, Huang Fusheng told Yin Xiao, Yi, and the others about the legend of Tianyao Ridge. Dmo Xian's deep and cold eyes looked at the group of people behind him as his voice was deep and cold. This lord will go in first. All of you wait outside. Let's go together as well. Xiao Jin hurriedly said. Little Jin, we're just dragging the ham if we go in. If we delay the Overlord from saving little Qing Luo, we'll die very, very miserably. An arm circled around Xiao Jin's shoulder. Zhou Mo, who had a devilish look on his face, hung limply on Xiao Jin's body. Xiao Jin hesitated. But believe in the Overlord, he cares about little Qing Luo more than anyone else here. Zomo's red phoenix eyes curved. He shot a glance in the direction of Gue Wu. Wu, are you staying behind or going in? I'm waiting for someone. Gue Wu indifferently replied. Waiting for someone? Mo looked suspiciously from Xiao Jin's body to Gue Wu's. Waiting for who? Other than me. Who else can you wait for? Gue Wu did not even look at him, nor did he have any intention of replying. The others didn't want to pay attention to this playful fox either. All of them looked at Dmo Xian, hoping to find out about Yiqing Luo's news from his mouth. Brother-in-law, Dizun, is sister really inside? Kitty Lee asked cautiously. She had signed a blood contract with her sister. However, she couldn't sense her sister's aura at all. It was as if the connection between her and her sister had been cut off. Dmo Xian's stern face was wrapped in a thin layer of frost. This lord cannot be certain. Kitty Lee's little claws immediately clenched together. The two little ears on his head couldn't help but stand up. Dmo Xian's gaze looked towards the boundless dense forest ahead. The surrounding vines were like man-eating plants, filled with a strange aura. He ignored the people behind him and walked straight into the horizon ridge. The group of people behind him wanted to follow. But at the entrance of the Tianya Ridge, however, he still stopped in his tracks. Qing Luo will be fine, right? Yin Xiao Yi nestled in Xiao Jin's arms as she lowered her head, her eyes filled with anxiety. Xiao Jin comforted him in a low voice. I believe in Dizun's judgment. It's already not easy for us to come to the heaven realm. If we follow them into the Tianya mountain range, there will be danger everywhere. No one knows what will happen. Let's wait here for the Overlord to bring Qing Luo back. Everything. I'll leave it to Lord Dizun. Yiqing Luo sat in the room for a short period of time. She heard a commotion outside the door. She didn't even raise her head as her voice was cold. Zhu Wu Exen, either change my room or let me out. The fastest update speed. Hurry up and read it. TXT download address. Phone reading. Chapter 4392. Huang Fusheng's face turned pale. What happened to Aluo? What did that mean? Dmo Xian's expression was solemn and cold as his eyes stared fixedly at the netherworld dragon ring. I don't know, but the only thing I can confirm is that Lil Luo should have been here before. Zhu Wuexan, that scoundrel. Why did he bring Qing Luo to this kind of ghastly place for? Yin Xiao, he looked around at the terrifying dense forest as her face was filled with worry. Tianya Ridge was the most dangerous place in the Heaven Realm. Basically, no one in the entire Heaven Realm would take things too hard and run over to Tianya Mountain Range to train. At most, it was used to punish clan members who had made mistakes. It could be said that in the entire Heaven Realm, throwing someone into the Tianya Ridge was the cruelest punishment. On the way to the Tianya Ridge, Huang Fusheng told Yin Xiao Yi and the others about the legend of Tianya Ridge. Dmo Xian's deep and cold eyes looked at the group of people behind him as his voice was deep and cold. This lord will go in first. All of you wait outside. Let's go together as well. Xiao Jin hurriedly said, Little Jin, we're just dragging the ham if we go in. If we delay the Overlord from saving little Qing Luo, we'll die very, very miserably. An arm circled around Xiao Jin's shoulder. Zhou Mo, who had a devilish look on his face, hung limply on Xiao Jin's body. Xiao Jin hesitated, but believe in the Overlord, he cares about little Qing Luo more than anyone else here. Zomo's red phoenix eyes curved. He shot a glance in the direction of Gue Wu. Wu, are you staying behind or going in? I'm waiting for someone. Gue Wu indifferently replied. Waiting for someone? Mo looked suspiciously from Xiao Jin's body to Gue Wu's. Waiting for who? Other than me, who else can you wait for? Gue Wu did not even look at him, nor did he have any intention of replying. The others didn't want to pay attention to this playful fox either. All of them looked at Dmo Xian, hoping to find out about Yiqing Luo's news from his mouth. Brother-in-law, Dizun, is sister really inside? Kitty Lee asked cautiously. She had signed a blood contract with her sister. However, She couldn't sense her sister's aura at all. It was as if the connection between her and her sister had been cut off. Dmo Xian's stern face was wrapped in a thin layer of frost. This lord cannot be certain. Kitty Lee's little claws immediately clenched together. The two little ears on his head couldn't help but stand up. Dmo Xian's gaze looked towards the boundless dense forest ahead. The surrounding vines were like man-eating plants, filled with a strange aura. He ignored the people behind him and walked straight into the horizon ridge. The group of people behind him wanted to follow. But at the entrance of the Tinyar Ridge, however, he still stopped in his tracks. Qing Luo will be fine, right? Yin Xiao nestled in Xiao Jin's arms as she lowered her head, her eyes filled with anxiety. Xiao Jin comforted him in a low voice. I believe in Di Zun's judgment. It's already not easy for us to come to the Heaven Realm. If we follow them into the Tianya mountain range, there will be danger everywhere. No one knows what will happen. Let's wait here for the Overlord to bring Qing Luo back. Everything. I'll leave it to Lord Di Zun. Qing Luo sat in the room for a short period of time. She heard a commotion outside the door. Chapter 4393. For this kind of newbie who had just received part of the training and had yet to serve their master, their thoughts were mostly the cleanest, especially for a young girl who didn't even know how to speak. It was even more convenient. But, although the young girl didn't know how to speak, but her expressions were very rich. Whatever Qing Luo asked, she was able to use her expressions to answer a part of it. Qing Luo could more or less decipher a rough idea. For example, they were suddenly brought to this residence by Zhu Wu Xin 3 days ago. Zhu Wu Xin only instructed them to serve the lady in the residence, which was Qing Luo. But this was also the first time they met her. 3 days ago, Qing Luo remembered that she should have been unconscious for 2 days, which meant that she was brought to this residence 2 days ago, which meant that, right from the start, Zhu Wu Xin had planned to imprison her here. She scoffed lightly as her brows were filled with cold ridicule. He had indeed planned it well. Qing Luo laughed coldly. The young girl who was leading the way revealed some fear on her face when she heard her laughter, as though she didn't understand which sentence she had said wrongly. Qing Luo. Did she look like a cruel person to him? Why was this young lady so easily frightened by her? Where are you bringing me to? She changed the topic. They walked for about half an incense's time. They had already walked past a courtyard. He turned into another courtyard. The young lady had no intention of stopping. What trick was Zhu Wu Xin trying to play? After walking for a while more, the young girl stopped at the door of her room and made a gesture towards her. Qing Luo's brows rose as she looked at the room in front of her. She stretched out her hand and directly pushed open the door. What entered her eyes was an extremely luxurious ladies' room. It was separated into 2 rooms. The outer hall was clean and tidy, and the things displayed were all things which ladies loved. But it was exquisite and luxurious everywhere. Qing Luo could tell with just one look. This room was so clean that there was no trace of anyone staying in it. This was the room which Zhu Wu Xin prepared for her. The young girl bowed towards her and used her hand gestures to express her meaning, which probably meant that this courtyard was her place. This room was her lady's room. Following that, he took out a bell from his bosom and respectfully handed it over to Qing Luo. He hinted to her that if she needed them for anything, she could ring the bell and they would rush over. After explaining these things, the little girl retreated. His speed was so fast that he looked like he was fleeing for his life. Qing Luo took a look at the bell in her hand as a sharp glint flashed past her eyes. She casually tossed the bell into the air. As the bell fell, the gourd flame fan in his hand opened up, turning into a biting cold energy. Kacha! The bell broke into 2 halves. A wisp of extremely faint, profound wave overflowed from the bell. Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she stared at that overflowing profound wave, disappearing into the air. She sneered coldly and twitched the corner of her lips. She couldn't hide the mockery in her eyes. You want to trick me with this little trick? Did Zhu Wuxin think that he could lower her guard against a little girl who didn't know how to speak? But did he forget? For her, everything about him was worthy of her suspicion. This was his territory. The young girl belonged to him. How could she possibly believe him? Yiqing Luo didn't even take a look at the bell, which had broken into two halves as she turned around and walked into the room, closing the door. In a room in the neighboring courtyard. It was so dark that one couldn't see anything in the room when suddenly a sound of something breaking was heard. End of this chapter. Chapter 4394. Romance website. Trash 7th Missy. Overlord, be gentle with your love. Latest chapter. Yo, you trying to spy on someone but got discovered? A lazy voice was particularly clear in the pitch-black room. Following that voice, the room was gradually lit up with candlelight, lighting up the surroundings. A tall and handsome figure slowly walked to the side of the desk. The man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe, which hung loosely on his body, revealing a large area of skin. His long hair was not tied up as it hung loosely on his shoulders. His entire person was lazy and carefree. Both his hands were propped on the study table. In front of him was a bronze mirror. On the bronze mirror, there were numerous cracks. What are you here for? The man in front of the study table had an icy, cold expression as he shifted his gaze away from the bronze mirror. To see you chase after a young lady. The lazy man pulled a chair over and sat down on the other side of the study table. As his loose robe fluttered, his naked long legs were faintly discernible. Zhu Wuxin took a glance, and his expression turned uglier. Scram! The lazy man lowered his eyes as he looked at his fair thighs and pulled the loose robe over to cover it. I'm not here to seduce you. Why are you reacting so strongly for? Could it be that you have a reaction towards the sexy me? Green veins popped out on Zhu Wuxin's forehead. Scram yourself, or do I have to beat you out? Ha ha ha! The lazy man looked at Zhu Wuxin's raging look with satisfaction as he maintained a lazy expression. I haven't seen your angry face for a long time. I miss it so much. After listening to this sentence, Zhu Wuxin's expression stiffened, and after some time, he slowly retracted all the emotions on his face. It turned back into a cold, expressionless expression. He pursed his lips as he looked coldly at the man's face. Why didn't you stay in your upper profound hall? Why did you run over to the heaven realm? Upper profound hall. If Yiqing Luo was present, she would definitely recognize him. This lazy and carefree man, wasn't he the Nirvana realm's heavenly academy, the hidden upper profound hall? Hall master. You can come, why can't I? The hall master smiled as he replied. Zhu Wuxin glanced at him. The palace master shrugged his shoulders and raised his hands in surrender. I'm just here to see how far you've gone in your pursuit of the lady and whether you need my help. What kind of rotten ideas did you come up with? At the mention of this, Zhu Wuxin's gaze became even colder. He abruptly reached out and grabbed the temple master's collar. What nonsense are you saying that you can move a woman's heart by being gentler and saying more sweet nothings? That's utter nonsense. Yes, his skill in flirting and flirting with girls was very strong. It was all taught by this Ascendant Hall master of the Ascendant Hall. The palace master shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, Don't you know very well how difficult the lady you've taken a fancy to is? Zhu Wuxin's expression stiffened. Moreover, it's not like you don't know that she is dead set on that person. The palace master continued. It would have been fine if you wanted a virgin, but you just had to want a woman whose heart already belonged to someone. Zhu Wuxin's hand that was grabbing his collar also froze. Then, his fingers released the temple master one by one. His hands clenched into fists as he sat back on the chair. The palace master looked at the ugly expression on Zhu Wuxin's face and wanted to say something, but in the end, it turned into a helpless sigh. You reap what you sow. I'm so unlucky to have a brother like you. He picked up that cracked bronze mirror on the table. The moment he touched it, the broken pieces of the bronze mirror all fell onto the table. Brother, your action of trying to spy on her, but being discovered by her, it's hard not to save her. Chapter 4395. The bell was the medium to monitor Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Luo had cut the bell into two halves, thus breaking the connection between the bell and the bronze mirror. Zhu Wuxian's fist, which was placed on the table, clenched even tighter. The green veins on his palm could be seen faintly. Hall Master's gaze swept past his face. You really intend to imprison her for life? Chu Wuxian's eyes flickered, dark and deep. This time, no one can think of taking her away from my identity. Hall Master's pupils shrunk slightly, but that handsome and lazy face didn't have much emotion. He lazily leaned against the back of the chair as he squinted his eyes and spoke in disdain. Previously, when you brought her to my place, I advised you to take the opportunity to eat her up. She has become your woman. So are you still afraid that she will leave you? But you insisted on waiting for her to be willing before you touch her. Look at you now. Don't talk about touching her. Even if you want to get close to her, you will probably be despised to death. Zhu Wuxian glanced at him coldly. Do you think everyone is like you? But what you're doing now is no different from eating her up. Hall Master didn't think much of it, but his words hit the nail on the head. Do you think that not touching her is the greatest respect for her, and you'll be able to maintain a friendly relationship with her on the surface? But have you forgotten? That lady's wild nature is hard to tame. You've lied to her once or twice and imprisoned her here. Do you think she will still treat you as a friend? Chu Wuxian's eyes instantly congealed as the expression on his face turned steely green. Don't stare at me. I'm speaking the truth. Hall Master raised his hand and blocked Zhu Wuxian's icy cold vision. Since things have already come to this, you might as well sleep with her now. Zhu Wuxian's eyes turned colder and colder. Like a 10,000-year-old frost mountain, it enveloped everything in the surroundings. Hall Master shrunk backwards, but still braced himself and said, Everyone says that women wear pajamas. You use a man's ability to conquer her so that she can't leave you. Zhu Wuxian's eyes stared at Hall Master without blinking. Hall Master blinked his eyes. The two of them exchanged glances. The room was silent. The Temple Master blinked again and nodded at him. Trust me, this is the ultimate technique for chasing girls. A subtle change flashed through Zhu Wuxian's eyes. Yi-Ching Luo checked the room, which no one had ever stayed in from the beginning to the end. He confirmed that there was no sign of Zhu Wuxian's aura. He found a chair and sat down. He didn't know what was wrong with Zhu Wuxian. After changing her room, and even tried to monitor her movements in the room, if not for the fact that he knew that Zhu Wuxian wasn't that kind of person with filthy thoughts, he wouldn't have believed it. She almost suspected that Zhu Wuxian was really possessed by a pervert. She lowered her eyes and looked at the ring engraved with a phoenix on her finger. She sighed softly. Zhu Wuxian was becoming more and more abnormal. She had to quickly think of a way to leave this place. The profound phoenix ring had sensed it the last time he was at that ancient tree. She had to go to the ancient tree again. Just as he was thinking, Yi-Ching Luo suddenly felt a scorching sensation on her fingertips. His fingers seemed to have been pricked by something. It was the same feeling as when she was at the ancient tree. Her eyes shone as she speedily raised her hand, and her fingertips touched the Ming mirror as she excitedly asked in a probing tone, Xian, is that you? Her voice was filled with cautiousness and anticipation, but she was afraid that she would be disappointed. Chapter 4396. But there was no response from the profound phoenix ring. Yi-Ching Luo didn't give up as she pursed her lips and called out again, Xian, Xian. The air was still deathly silent. Yi-Ching Luo's heart felt as though it had fallen from the clouds into the abyss. No response from Xian. Still no response from Xian. She squeezed her eyes shut. Her arms hung limply by her side. Was she disappointed? Of course she was disappointed. She missed Xian so much that she was going crazy. The profound phoenix ring on her fingertips was still burning, and the vibration was still stimulating her senses. She didn't move, allowing the profound phoenix ring to release its energy. Just at this moment, like an electric current, an intermittent voice rang in her ears. Little Luo? That voice sounded like a phone call with a bad signal. It was intermittent and mixed with electricity. But even so, Yiqing Luo still heard that voice and the words that were spat out. Her body suddenly tensed up. His eyes, which had been closed, quickly opened. Her eyes looked at the profound phoenix ring in disbelief. That originally dead heart in his chest suddenly began to beat vigorously, as though it was going to jump out from her throat. She raised her hand in front of her and stared at the profound phoenix ring. Her eyes slowly turned red. Ah, Xian, little Luo, The voice gradually became clearer. The man's deep and magnetic voice entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Like a soft feather, it spread out in her heart, little by little, causing ripples to appear. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Her pink lips gradually curved into a beautiful smile. Xian, her fingers gently touched the profound phoenix ring, as though it was caressing the man's face. Her voice revealed a slight tremble. Xian, Xian. Her longing for emotion. At this moment, it was uncontrollably pouring out. She kept calling out Xian's name, as though she wanted to shout out all her longing for this period of time. Lil Luo, are you all right? Xian's voice was suppressing the joy and agitation. His first question was to ascertain if Yiqing Luo was all right. Yiqing Luo's throat seemed to be blocked by something as her eyes reddened tightly. Her little hands were tightly clenched into fists, trying to suppress her current emotions. Lil Luo, did he do something to you? After not hearing Yiqing Luo's reply for a long time, the man's voice turned taut. His tone was also slightly anxious. Yiqing Luo hurriedly replied, No, I'm fine. As soon as she spoke, choking sounds came out from her lips uncontrollably. He could no longer restrain himself. Yiqing Luo simply didn't conceal it as she sniffled and spoke with a sobbing tone. Xian, I miss you. Xian's heart wrenched at this moment. His heart ached. Lil Luo, wait for me. I will come and pick you up immediately. Pick her up immediately. Hearing this sentence, Yiqing Luo's agitated heart slowly regained some rationality. She forcefully wiped her eyes, suppressing the sourness that welled up in her eyes. The connection between the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring could not cross the boundary. Previously, when they were in the ancient tree, they were able to confirm that Xian had reached the heaven realm. But now, through the two rings, they communicated. This meant that Xian was currently in the vicinity of this residence. Or perhaps he had already infiltrated this residence. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4397. This knowledge made Yiqing Luo's heart skip a beat. Xian, where are you now? Do you miss me so much? The man's clear voice had a hint of a smile, like the warm sunshine, dispelling all the coldness in Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's heart was melted and her eyes turned red again. She pursed her lips and suppressed her emotions. I miss you very much, but I don't want you to take risks for me. She tried hard to calm herself down and continued. Xian, I'm fine here. He only restricted my freedom, but didn't hurt me. Don't be impulsive. I will wait here for you to pick me up, but you have to promise me. All your actions must be 80%. No, 90% and above before you can take action. Xian laughed lowly. Huayan's low and hoarse voice seemed to overflow from the depths of his throat. In this silent room, inexplicably, a layer of faint ambiguity was emitted. He was using his voice to tease her heartstrings. The young lady's cheeks were flushed, her charming eyes were watery and beautiful. She pinched her fingertips and pouted. I'm serious. Believe that I can protect myself and not let you worry. You can't let me worry too. Shoo. The man hushed her. That one syllable. It almost made Yiqing Luo's legs soften. She really missed him too much. That was why she could only hear his voice and couldn't control her feelings. Xian's voice became more gentle. Be good. Don't talk about these. I want to hear you say, you miss me. Xian. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she laughed. It was already at this time. He still had the mood to joke. DMO Xian guessed the young lady's thoughts and laughed lightly. I'm not joking. He paused, and his voice also revealed a few traces of Keeley and Toomey. I just missed you. That clear voice was slightly hoarse. It made Yiqing Luo's heart skip a few beats. Her face had already turned red uncontrollably. I want to hear you talk. Just about you and me. That voice was even lower, mellow, and seductive. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip. I lost you. Finally, she could hear his voice. He wanted to make use of this rare opportunity to listen to her words of love. Shouldn't they take this opportunity to discuss their current situation and analyze how to leave this mansion together? However, listening to the man's seductive words, Yiqing Luo had no way to reject. Towards DMO Xian's beauty, she would never be able to refuse. Yiqing Luo started to rummage through her mind for all the local love words that she knew. Xian, when it comes to liking you, I am #1 in the world. Although you have walked out of my sight, I can't walk out of my longing for you. Far away in the depths of the horizon ridge, a person stood on the back of a nine-tailed fox, floating in mid-air. That peerless face was filled with softness. His eyes were filled with gentleness and love. However, the surging waves around him seemed to be able to overturn the entire Tianyao Ridge. The hurricane howled, and the tyrannical, profound waves surged behind him like raging waves. His hands moved, and his sleeves fluttered. The profound light grew stronger and stronger as it charged into the boundless forest ahead. Rumble. A decaying aura pervaded the entire space. Bam! A heavy collision sound was heard. The energy which he released seemed to have collided against an invisible barrier as it was bounced back. The fastest update speed. Hurry up and read it. Download address. Cell phone reading. Chapter 4398. The vast energy eroded everything around it. 3 steps away from DMO Xian, because of the rebounding energy, the entire Tianyao Ridge was shaking incessantly. Bam, bam, bam. The tyrannical, profound waves collided again and again, and were rebounded by that invisible barrier again and again. Each wave was more turbulent than the last. Each wave was more majestic and vast than the last. Everything around it was razed to the ground. But even though it created such a horrifying scene, the man's face was still so gentle and pampering. There was not a bit of evil aura on it. It was as if the surrounding environment was treacherous. It was not created by him, and he seemed to have no connection with the surrounding environment. By his ear, he only heard the gentle voice of a young lady gently ringing. The gentle voice was filled with the sweetness and tenderness of a young lady. Each and every word was like a warm current, rippling in his heart. He would occasionally respond with a word or two. From time to time, he would use a low and alluring voice to reply a few words. Even at the same time, when he was doing such a gentle thing, the surrounding profound waves did not stop for even a little bit. On the contrary, along with the gentleness in his eyes, his imposing manner and broad and violent overbearingness, as if it could swallow everything in the world. He did not know how long it lasted. The young lady's voice suddenly stopped, after several breaths of silence. Her voice was a little hoarse, a low sigh, overflowing from her lips. Xian, I miss you. Another set of rustic words of love. But in the end, at the very end, she only had the words, miss you, to express everything in her heart. The man's shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to have light floating, captivating one's soul. He slightly raised his hand, caressed the netherworld dragon ring on his fingertip, as if he could caress the young lady's face through the air. Miss her. He missed her too, wanted to hold her in his arms, to hug her tightly, to touch her body temperature, to smell the fragrance on her body, to feel her by his side. Just at this moment, suddenly, from the other side of the ring, came the young lady's slightly tense voice. Zhu Wuexin, what are you doing here again? The man's pupils suddenly contracted. On the other side of the room, Yiqing Luo was staring at the profound phoenix ring in a daze. She couldn't wait to leap into Mo Xian's arms through the profound phoenix ring. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Her emotions immediately tensed up. She jumped up from the bed and saw Zhu Wuxin walking in with a cold expression. Zhu Wuxin's expression was cold, and there seemed to be some sort of emotion in his eyes. It was extremely frightening. Zhu Wuxin, what are you doing here again? Yiqing Luo clutched the profound phoenix ring tightly. Her heart thumped hard. Surely it couldn't be that. Zhu Wuxian had discovered that she had made contact with Mo Xian. His complexion was extremely frightening. Without saying a word, Zhu Wuxin slowly approached her. An invisible pressure poured down on them. The air seemed to be frozen into frost. She stared at Zhu Wuxian's gloomy face and clenched her fingers tightly. Zhu Wuxian, what exactly do you want to do? Ah. Her wrist was forcefully grabbed by Zhu Wuxin. That wide palm was extremely powerful. Pressing both her arms, he pressed her body onto the bed. Yiqing Luo's expression instantly turned extremely ugly as her voice revealed a chilly tone. Zhu Wuxian, do you know what you're doing? I've never been more clear-headed than now. Zhu Wuxian looked at her from above, and between his brows was a deep coldness which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Please remember this book's domain name. Com. Wonderful Book House mobile version website. Com. Chapter 4399. His pair of cold eyes reflected the girl's cold and elegant and exquisite face that could topple cities. His long, slender fingers slowly caressed Yiqing Luo's delicate face. His fingertips moved gently towards her lips. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past, and in this dim room, it revealed a chilly glint. Zhu Wuxian, if you dare to make another move, I will make you unable to be a man for the rest of your life. Her tone was filled with an eerie chill. Her alluring eyes were filled with endless enmity towards men. That sinister gaze pierced Zhu Wuxian's eyes. He pursed his thin lips tightly as his chest seemed to be accumulating some kind of unsuppressible emotion. Hall Master's words kept reverberating in his mind. His eyes were filled with black whirlpools as it turned more and more berserk. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the aura of death from Zhu Wuxian's body. That icy, cold feeling as though it was isolated from the world. It made her a little apprehensive. Move aside. Her voice deepened. Zhu Wuxian gave a low laugh as his long hair poured down onto Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo, I've said this before. I won't let go. His tone was mixed with a craziness which he himself didn't even notice. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted slightly as her eyes were filled with coldness and indifference. Zhu Wuxian, you asked for this yourself. Her words had just ended. Her legs suddenly bent upwards as she used all her strength to knock against the man's crotch. Her action was very sudden. Plus, Zhu Wuxian totally didn't expect that Yiqing Luo, who had lost her profound energy, would have any power to retaliate. This time, it was a heart-wrenching pain, no matter how indifferent Zhu Wuxian was. He was in so much pain that his forehead was oozing with cold sweat. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to escape from his body. Immediately following that, her fingertips moved. Some white powder floated in the air. Following that, she didn't even take a look at Zhu Wuxian as her figure speedily shifted towards the door. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian staggered as he chased after her. Because of the pain somewhere, every step he took seemed as though he was stepping on a sharp knife. He chased to the door. He held onto the door with one hand, as his expression was cold. Stand right there. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she hadn't heard what he said. He quickly rushed out of the courtyard. Zhu Wuxin wanted to give chase. However, his entire body felt as if there were sharp blades stabbing into his lower abdomen one by one, along with the place which Yiqing Luo had kicked earlier. The pain was getting more and more indescribable. Wuxin, the hall master, also wanted to come over and check on the current progress. The moment he arrived, he saw Zhu Wuxin lying at the door, twitching in pain. He quickly rushed over and helped Zhu Wuxin up. What happened? Where's that little girl? Zhu Wuxin grabbed his wrist with the back of his hand. His palms were full of cold sweat. That deathly pale face seemed to be filled with extreme pain. He enunciated each word with an ice-cold gaze. Catch her. Don't let her escape. Don't. This was the first time the Hall Master had seen Zhu Wuxin in such a sorry state. The Palace Lord looked at Zhu Wuxin's appearance, then at his slightly bent body, as if he was in extreme pain somewhere. The expression on his face was very complicated. He patted Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. This is the enchantment that you've conjured. She can't escape. But are you sure you don't want to cure the poison first? His gaze fell onto a certain part of Zhu Wuxin. You must know that this part of a man is very important. If you're not careful, in the future you might. Please remember this book's domain name. Com. Wonderful Book House mobile version website. Com. Chapter 4400. Zhu Wuxian's eyes suddenly blurred. The image of the young girl looking at him with hostility and an ashen face appeared in his mind. He could still hear the girl's cold words ringing in his ears. I will make it so that you can never be a man. She was referring to, is that it? Hell, once, after being removed from her world, she would not be soft-hearted. In her heart, right now, he was just an enemy. Wuxian, I'll detoxify you first. The temple master looked at him with a pale face and a bitter smile on his face. He gritted his teeth and carried him up. Zhu Wuxin's breathing was tight. His voice was pained, but it was filled with determination. Find her. I want her to personally cure me of the poison. He could not possibly let go of Yiqing Luo. Even if she hated him, it didn't matter. Even if he was treated as an enemy, it didn't matter. He must keep her by his side. Zhu Wuxin. The leader of the temple gnashed his teeth and glared at Zhu Wuxin. What have I done to deserve a brother like you? He carried her into the room. Just as he was about to press the other party onto the bed, Zhu Wuxin's hand gripped it tightly. Don't touch her bed. The palace master's movements paused. Why are you so hard to please? Zhu Wuxin forcefully closed his eyes. The intense pain from his lower abdomen caused large beads of cold sweat to appear on his forehead. Put me on the ground, he said with difficulty. Temple Master, are you sick? Yiqing Luo, she doesn't wish for her place to be tainted with my scent. Zhu Wuxin lowered his head slightly, as his voice was so light that there was only a breath left. As his words fell, the surrounding atmosphere was so low that it was a little terrifying. You're really sick. The temple master endured for a long time before swallowing the last few words. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he carried the man to the corner of the room and made him lean against the wall. He pressed Zhu Wuxin against the wall, untied his outer robe, and covered Zhu Wuxin with it. He was about to get up. His gaze swept past Zhu Wuxin's face. His movements suddenly paused, his eyes staring unblinkingly at Zhu Wuxian's face. Wuxin, the Hall Master's pupils dilated slightly, as if he had received a great shock. What did he see? Zhu Wuxin's deep and dark eyes that were like deep pools were actually filled with thick black mist. The mist was spreading through the building. One could faintly see the infatuation in Zhu Wuxian's eyes, as well as his deep obsession towards Yiqing Luo. What was going on? Why was there such a strange feeling on Wuxian's body? The temple master was just about to reach out and touch Zhu Wuxin's eyes. He had just raised his hand, but he hadn't even gotten close. Zhu Wuxin raised his hand and slapped him down. Go after them. Bring her back. She can't escape. She can't escape. His hoarse voice was bone-chilling. However, there was also a sense of treachery that made one's hair stand on end. The temple master felt even more uneasy and strange. However, under Zhu Wuxin's urging, he took a deep look at Zhu Wuxian before turning around and leaving the room. After Yiqing Luo left this courtyard, she speedily headed towards that ancient tree. In the profound phoenix ring, the man's voice had already been cut off. Perhaps earlier when Zhu Wuxian was pressing down on her arm, it had cut off the connection between her and DMO Xian. Not knowing, earlier Zhu Wu Xian's voice was not heard by Xian. If he heard it, and the connection between them was suddenly cut off, Xian would definitely be extremely anxious. Chapter 44:01. No way. She couldn't let Xian worry. She must hurry and tell Xian that she was fine. Yiqing Luo's long and thick eyelashes fluttered slightly. Her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of determination. Yiqing Luo had already remembered the path she had taken. It wasn't difficult to find that ancient tree which made the profound phoenix ring react. But when she reached the garden, however, he was stopped by two petite figures in front of him. The little girl looked like 12 or 13 years old, and she timidly stretched out her arms, blocking Yiqing Luo's path. Yiqing Luo ignored them and prepared to walk past them. But the moment she moved, the two little girls followed and moved, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo. Move aside. Yiqing Luo's face sunk as she spoke coldly. The two little girls shook their heads hard. Yiqing Luo's brows surfaced a chilly intent. Move aside. Don't force me to make a move. The little girl was so scared that she trembled all over as her mouth was agape, but she couldn't say a single word. However, they didn't seem to have the slightest intention of moving their bodies away. It's him who asked you to stop me? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Her voice had just ended when she heard a clear voice. It's me. That voice was very unfamiliar. But vaguely, there was a little bit of familiarity. Didn't Shi Yin say there was no one else in this residence other than the four of them? How could there be other people? Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a tall figure descending from the sky. A loose bamboo-colored robe revealed his fair chest muscles. His face was like jade, and he looked handsome. Yiqing Luo's brows jumped. Profound Hall Master. The man's brows rose as he laughed lightly. I didn't expect Miss Yi to still remember me. It's really you. Yiqing Luo was shocked. Why are you here? Why wasn't he in his profound hall, but here in the heaven realm? Of course, to help Wu Xian. Wu Yu. The hall master's thin lips curled upwards, as though he was an immortal. He slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Follow me back to help Wu Xian detoxify. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. You mean? Wu Xian became so strange and suddenly did that kind of thing to me. Was taught by you. Don't you like it? A trace of hostility flashed through the cold eyes of the palace master. Don't women like this kind of things that are superficial and meaningless? Words of love? Surprise? Or is it the unique tenderness for you? Since Wu Xian is willing to change for you, it means that his feelings for you are true. Why do you have to reject him again and again? Yiqing Luo naturally sensed the enmity the hall master had towards her. It was the first time he met the palace master. He restrained his aura and did not reveal his fangs that were too sharp. But this time, the palace master clearly wanted to kill her. Yiqing Luo maintained her own emotions as her voice was indifferent. Whether to accept him or not is my business. Don't force your own thoughts on Zhu Wu Xian and me. Wu Xin is my brother. The ruthlessness in the palace master's eyes intensified. You even put that kind of poison on him. Come with me to cure the poison immediately. Yiqing Luo sneered. Thanks to you, isn't it because of you that he became like this? The palace master's face turned pale, and his figure suddenly moved. His wide sleeves rustled in the air, giving off a loud sound. The profound waves surged wantonly, like a raging hurricane, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at Yiqing Luo, as though it wanted to swallow her up. I say, the young lady's red lips were charming as it rose slightly. Have you liked Zhu Wu Xian for a long time? Chapter 44:02. The surrounding turbulent hurricanes rushed towards Yiqing Luo at the instance. It suddenly stopped, as though the pause button had been pressed. Everything in the surroundings froze in that instant. Several breaths. Bam, bam, bam. Overbearing, profound, rays exploded in the surroundings, with Yiqing Luo and the rest as the core. The surrounding flower beds and trees were all exploded and collapsed, turning into ruins. A horrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate instantly spread out. The environment had been destroyed to such a state. But the few people standing in the middle were totally unscathed. The young lady stood against the wind, dressed in a fiery red robe, looking magnificent. Her brows were as calm as water. Her dark red lips curled into a charming cold arc. On her face, there was no change of emotions, as though she was completely certain that he didn't dare to make a move. Or perhaps she had her own trump card. She was not afraid of any of his actions. Obviously, those two young girls who didn't know how to speak had already fainted from fright. But she was unmoved. The palace lord's half-squinted eyes seemed to be filled with frost. "What are you saying?" He practically squeezed each word out from the slits of his teeth. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Her long and thick lashes were like butterfly wings, as it fluttered, projecting a beautiful fox shadow. "Looks like I've guessed your thoughts." Yiqing Luo. The palace lord's expression congealed as his hands clenched into fists. "I don't know why you would have such a ridiculous thought, but I'm telling you, just because you don't like Wu Xan, don't slander his feelings towards you." His eyes turned darker and darker, but it was strangely resolute. You cannot accept him, don't like him, but absolutely cannot deny that he loves you in that heart. Yiqing Luo's smile slowly froze on her face. Her eyelashes fanned, and the expression on her face had lost that coldness. Sky profound palace lord, everyone's feelings, only he himself knows. She sighed slightly. "How can you be sure that the person he really loves is me?" "I understand him." The palace lord looked at her fixedly. "Perhaps even he himself doesn't know how deep his feelings for you are." He paused for a moment. The expression on the palace master's face also became serious. "Wu Xian is different from normal people. The life he has lived since he was young is also different from ours. The way he treated things and people, to him, was either to possess or to destroy. Only you. He wanted you, but he couldn't have you, and he couldn't bear to destroy you. Needless to say, he loves you so much that he can't even free himself from it. Although he did a lot of things that you couldn't agree with. But that's the way he loves you. Everyone loves in a different way. He just loves you the way he loves you. Whether you accept it or not, he loves you. You can't deny this." Hearing the hall master's resolute and sincere words, Zhang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. How could Yiqing Luo's heart not be shocked? Perhaps she could vaguely feel it. The person Chu Wu Xian was clinging to was not only that Xiaoqing Luo who had given him warmth and gentleness. There was also her, whom he had been pestering but had been repeatedly rejected. However, she did not want to think about the thoughts of men other than Xian. She didn't want to give any man other than Xian any hope. So she directly ignored all of Chu Wu Xian's feelings, placing Chu Wu Xian in a position that seemed like an enemy, yet a friend. But today, the palace lord had pointed it out directly. She had no choice but to face this problem. Into this chapter. Chapter 4403. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes finally had a slight reaction. Her slender brows rose as her long and narrow eyes were filled with complicated emotions which no one could understand. As though she was smiling, or as though she was ridiculing him. "So you feel that I should accept his feelings just because he has deep feelings for me?" The young lady's tone was filled with slight ridicule. Hall Master went into a blank for a moment, but quickly replied, "You should know that he only wishes for you to stay by his side. He wants me to accompany him, so I must accompany him?" Yiqing Luo sneered. "What on earth does he treat me as?" Hall Master was slightly dazed by Yiqing Luo's reaction. Generally speaking, when a lady heard such words, even if she had no feelings towards Zhu Wu Xen, she would at least feel touched. Why was it that this young lady still ridiculed him at the slightest disagreement? After a long time, he gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word. "Yiqing Luo, the reason why I'm saying all these is not because I want you to accept his feelings, but I hope that you can understand Wu Xian's feelings towards you. Just like earlier, You guessed that I have an improper relationship with him. This kind of words is an insult to his feelings towards you. She could tell. Hallmaster really cared about Zhu Wu Xian very much. This kind of feelings was not mixed with any other things. She gently curled her lips as her exquisite brows were filled with complicated emotions. Then I also hope that you can understand that it's impossible for me to accept his feelings, and I don't want to understand his feelings towards me. There was a hint of coldness in her voice. Her tone was indifferent, without much ripples, so, move aside, I want to leave this place. Hallmaster's handsome face frowned tightly. You, this woman, why is your heart made of stone? I've said so much and you haven't heard a single word. It's not that I have a heart made of stone, but my heart cannot accommodate a second person. Yiqing Luo took a step back. Her fingers moved. A burst of flame started burning from her fingertip. Move aside. Even if I step aside, you won't be able to leave this place. The palace master stared at the leaping flames on her fingertips. Didn't you lose your profound strength? Whether I can leave or not is my own business. Yiqing Luo's voice had just landed when the raging flame on her fingertips had already been waved out. When the small ball was swung out, in the blink of an eye, it turned into a fire dragon and burst out of the hole. Boundless waves of fire surged into the sky. Even the surrounding air hissed under these intense flames. The handsome face of the hall master frowned. Woman, why are you so cold-hearted? I've said so much, but you didn't listen to a single word? It's not that I have a heart of stone, but there's no room for a second person in my heart. Yiqing Luo took a step back. She moved her fingers. A wisp of flame burned on her fingertip. Get out of my way. Even if I step aside, you won't be able to leave this place. The hall master stared at the leaping flames on her fingertips. Haven't you lost your profound energy? Whether I can leave or not is my own business. Yiqing Luo's words had just landed when the raging flame on her fingertips was already waved out. In an instant, it turned into a fire dragon, breaking out of the hole. The majestic waves of fire set off huge waves. The surrounding air, under this intense flame, gave out a hissing, burning sound. The majestic waves of fire set off huge waves. The surrounding air, under this intense flame, gave out a hissing, burning sound. End of this chapter. Chapter 4404. He's getting serious. With a flap of Qian's wings, the fire wave was blown away. Then it flapped its wings and flew one round around Yiqing Luo. The overlord isn't around, so the men you've provoked, one after another. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and slapped Qian's head. Don't speak if you don't know how to speak. What did he mean by she had provoked man after man? It was these men who were sick, okay? Qian was almost hit by the palace lord's attack. He looked at the girl who had already run ahead of him. It was so angry that its little mouth pricked Yiqing Luo's body. If you dare to touch this sacred beast again, this sacred beast will not care about you anymore, and let you be smacked to death by that man. Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, a palm wind landed heavily on the road in front of Yiqing Luo. In an instant, gravel flew in all directions, and a huge crater was blasted open on the small path ahead. It also sealed off Yiqing Luo's escape route. The palace lord chased up to Yiqing Luo's back, and on seeing her stop at her footsteps, he also stopped in his tracks. Follow me back. Wu Xian is waiting for you. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she stared at the deep pit in front of her. The surrounding roads had been blasted into smithereens, and she had no place to land her feet at all. With her current situation, where she did not have any profound energy at all, there was no way for her to cross the deep pit from the sky. She slowly turned around and looked at the man behind her. She laughed mockingly. Lord Palace Lord, I no longer doubt that you like Zhu Wuxin. I say, have you taken a fancy to me? The temple master's face darkened. Do you think I'm as blind as Zhu Wuxin? Yiqing Luo. What the hell was blind? Hall master's face turned black as he continued. Yiqing Luo, don't force me to bring you to Wu Xian's side forcefully. Wu Xian doesn't want to see you getting hurt, But if you insist on forcing me, I don't mind using a pole to carry you over. I told you I won't be by his side. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly, her fair neck. The lines were smooth and beautiful. If you want to see Zhu Wu Xen really become a cripple, I don't mind. You carry me over. Anyway, he was the one who needed her help now. The Hall Master's face darkened further. He really couldn't understand. How could his brother fall in love with such a cold-hearted woman? He pursed his lips, his voice was tense, and his emotions were on the verge of collapse. You rejected Wuxin because you don't understand her. If you spend some time with Heartless, you will definitely fall in love with him. Yiqing Luo. Now it was changed to a conciliatory policy? This thought had just flashed through his mind. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him. The Palace Master's sudden movement had already caused him to appear in front of her in a flash. Holy *T. He actually dared to play dirty. She had overestimated the Palace Master's integrity. Yiqing Luo's hand was directly grabbed by the Hall Master. The path ahead was already a pitch-black deep pit, and she had no way out at all. When the Palace Master approached, the raging flames around him bared their fangs and brandished their claws, trying to devour the Temple Master. But he had no intention of dodging. Just like that, facing the pain of being burned by the raging flames, he forcefully charged into the flames and arrived in front of her. This Hall Master was really going all out for Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo took a look at the hand which was locked on her arm, and following that hand, she looked at the Palace Master. His face was still as calm as before, not a hint of impatience could be seen. After meeting the Palace Master's gaze, Chapter 4405. Trying to use the same method to deal with Wu Xin to deal with me. Palace Lord gave a faint smile. You can try. Why should I waste such a precious medicine on you? Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head. I wonder if Palace Lord has tasted human meat before? Palace Lord replied, no. Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto his hand. Now, the taste of roasted human meat. Palace Lord can have a taste. In other words, she disdained to poison him. But the vermilion bird's fire would teach him how to be a man. Palace Lord naturally understood the deep meaning behind it. But his hand had no intention to let go. On the contrary, his palm gripped her arm even more tightly. As he slightly bent over, his handsome face inched closer to her ear. The loose robe revealed a large portion of his skin. Yiqing Luo only needed to shift her gaze slightly, and she was able to see the skin under the loose robe. Yiqing Luo. Should she ridicule? Was this guy an exhibitionist? She had no intention of admiring his skin. So, what on earth was he trying to do? Taking the opportunity to molest her? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past a glint, just as she was about to raise her hand to roast human meat into actual action. Suddenly, a pair of strong and powerful arms went around her shoulders from behind, locking her down. Her back was pressed into a broad embrace. The elegant sandalwood fragrance instantly permeated her entire nose. Bam! In front of her, that person who was locking her arm suddenly flew out. He was still in midair, spinning rapidly for a few rounds, before crashing heavily onto the wall at the side. Profound Palace Lord. How dare you touch this lord's person? The man's cold voice was mellow, disdainful. This sudden turn of events. Yiqing Luo had no time to care, nor was she interested to bother about it, since that aura had completely enveloped her. Her body tensed up tightly, her eyes uncontrollably reddened. The man's temperature, the man's scent, and that mellow voice all crazily crashed into her head. Xian. Her voice couldn't stop the slight tremble. Joy and shock were mixed in. After shouting out this word, in the end, she couldn't help turning around in the man's arms. She raised her head, and in her eyes that were blurred by tears, the man's peerlessly handsome face was reflected. He also lowered his head. Her peach blossom eyes were filled with love and tenderness. When their eyes met, it was as if there were only the two of them in the world. The girl's soft arms tightly wrapped around the man's waist. Her cheek was pressed against his chest. She listened to his powerful heartbeat. The emptiness in his heart was slowly being filled. Lil Luo, I'm here to pick you up. The man's low and mellow voice was dark and husky, and his beautiful voice tugged at her heartstrings. This sentence a few simple words. But it forced Yiqing Luo to forcibly hold back her tears as it flowed down from the corners of her eyes. She rubbed her face against the man's chest. DMO Xian allowed her to do whatever she wanted. The tenderness in his eyes could almost cloy someone to death. His hands were tightly wrapped around the girl's delicate body, as though he wanted to rub her into his body. I want to hug you. I've thought about it for a long time. He cupped the young girl's face, and in his peach blossom eyes, there were layers of gentle spring water. He bent his head and kissed the young girl's lips hard. I want to kiss you. I've thought about it for a long time. His lips were domineering and boiling hot. That kind of overbearingness could not be resisted. Chapter 4406. DMO Xian was unable to use words to describe his current feelings. His stomach was filled with joy, and satisfaction. It almost made his body and mind burst apart. In this world, only his little Luo was able to stir up his emotions. No one knew. After he and Yiqing Luo finally established a connection, haven't had time to walk to her side. He heard her exclamation of Zhu Wu Xian ringing beside his ear. That tone was obviously different from usual. He anxiously wanted to ask Yiqing Luo what exactly had happened. But the connection between the two of them, suddenly, was cut off. At that time, just how chaotic and anxious was his heart. No one knew. The moment he thought that something might happen to Yiqing Luo, the viciousness and rage in his heart kept on surging. He had no way to control his thoughts. Even before, if Yiqing Luo was hurt in the slightest, he wanted the entire world to be buried with her. This kind of thinking, luckily, she was fine. His little Luo was fine. Otherwise, he really didn't know what he would do. DMO Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly. The passionate kiss almost swallowed the young lady into his stomach. From his kiss, Yiqing Luo could deeply feel the man's longing for her, his concern for her, the importance he placed on her, so many emotions. She could feel it clearly, the two's warmth and sweetness. It fell into the eyes of the hall master, who was sent flying not too far away. He gazed deeply at this beautiful scene in front of him. For a long time, he was unable to shift his eyes away. After a long time, only then did he slowly put his hand on his waist and abdomen. There was a long jade pendant hanging from his loose waist. Qingyi swayed back and forth as he chuckled mockingly. You've heard it too. Their relationship is one that no one can interfere with. Only standing by the side to watch this scene, the hall master felt that his heart was being tugged by some kind of emotion with a shocking feeling. In the world of those two, there was no place for a third person to exist. It was no wonder. No matter what, Yiqing Luo would not take another look at Zhu Wu Xian. All of her gentleness and the sweetness that belonged to a little girl were only given to that one man. Meanwhile, far away in a room in the courtyard, his entire body was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. His face was as pale as a sheet as he cowered in the corner of the room. He raised a hand and covered his eyes. He tried to hide the pain in his eyes. At this moment, a slender figure quietly entered the room. Step by step, he stood in front of the man. It was completely silent. What are you doing here? Zhu Wuxin did not move his hand away, nor did he look at anyone. His voice was cold and emotionless. The slender figure slowly walked to his side. If I didn't come, were you planning to kill yourself here, and then make her feel guilty towards you? The woman's voice was clear and sweet. Zhu Wuxin still didn't move. Scram. The slender figure seemed to be used to Zhu Wuxin's coldness. She reached out and held Zhu Wuxin's arm. As soon as it touched him, Zhu Wuxin shook him off forcefully. The woman lost her balance as she fell onto the ground. Zhu Wuxin leaned against the wall as an eerily cold intent filled his eyes. I asked you to scram. The woman slowly got up from the ground. She didn't even pat the dust off her body as she walked to Zhu Wuxin's side, without any change in expression as she continued to support him. Chapter 4407. Zhu Wuxin, just give up. The woman's voice was indifferent and calm. No matter how you torture yourself, she won't feel any guilt towards you. What you're doing is just in vain. As her voice faded away, the man's hand directly intercepted her outstretched hand. Zhu Wuxin looked coldly at the woman in front of him. The woman was dressed in a long gown that was flamboyant and eye-catching. The most eye-catching thing was the red embroidery on her gown, which spread out like flowers blooming in blood. Her delicate and beautiful face was pure and beautiful, but there was a hint of disdain in her eyes. Her expression was very indifferent. When she met Zhu Wuxin's eyes, there was not much change in her expression. Zhu Wuxin. She spoke again. Dizun has already broken your barrier. Are you sure you can still keep her in your current state? Zhu Wuxin's eyes were ice cold. They were as deep as a bottomless pool. The woman did not say anything more and continued to support him. Zhu Wuxin's face froze slightly, and the frost on his face became even colder. But this time, he did not shake off the woman again. He let the woman help him up. His hand rested on her delicate shoulder, and all the weight of his body pressed on the woman. The woman's delicate body swayed slightly, but she still forced herself to carry Zhu Wuxin to the bedside. Don't put me on her bed. Zhu Wuxin held the woman's arm tightly. She wouldn't like it. When he lowered his eyes seemed to be shrouded by a black fog. The woman pursed her lips, took a deep breath, and supported him out of the room. The place below Zhu Wuxin's lower abdomen hurt more and more as he walked. Cold sweat slid down and dripped on his eyelashes. His ice-cold eyes were blurred. In a trance, the voice that was transmitted into his ears through the jade pendant of the temple master as a medium was still echoing in his ears. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one? But he couldn't accept it. That girl should have belonged to him. He was the one who first met her. The black mist surging in Zhu Wuxian's eyes became even more rampant. The other side, DMO, Xian carried Yiqing Luo in his arms. Let's go. Yiqing Luo looped her arms around his neck and nodded smilingly. I've suddenly disappeared for so many days. Everyone must be worried about me. Cough. A light cough came from his side. The palace lord stood up shakily from the ruins. As he patted off the dust on his body, he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. Both of you, this lovey-dovey act isn't a little too much? His loose robe already had several holes in it. He was in a sorry state. DMO Xian indifferently shot a glance at the palace lord. The imposing glare between his brows made one feel pressured. Do you think that you can stop this, lord? Of course I won't seek my own death. The palace lord raised his sleeve and wiped off the blood on the corner of his lips, but I don't want you to leave so easily. Yiqing Luo shifted her vision towards the direction of the palace lord. The man's handsome face was pale. The corners of his lips were stained with blood, but it couldn't hide the whiteness of his lips. Apparently, the injury from DMO Xian's strike earlier wasn't light. Chapter 4408. But even so, he still stabilized his figure and blocked in front of the both of them. Move aside. DMO Xian lost his patience as his eyes turned sinister. Home Master gathered his loose robe. The Overlord is here personally, so I naturally can't stop you. But Yiqing Luo. Before he could finish his words, an item was shot towards his face. The Hall Master subconsciously caught the item. He opened his hand to take a look. It was a medicine bottle. The icy cold touch was emitting a faint medicinal fragrance. I've passed the item to you. Don't block the way. Yiqing Luo adjusted her position in DMO Xian's arms. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and there was even a hint of mockery in them. I say, you've really fallen for Zhu Wu Xin, haven't you? For Zhu Wu Xin, you can even throw away your life. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she really saw from Hall Master and Zhu Wu Xin, something which made her Fujoshi soul burn. So she couldn't be blamed for thinking in this way. Hall Master fixed his eyes on the medicine bottle in his palm. This is the antidote? Yi Qing Luo shrugged. You can choose not to believe. DMO Xian carried her as he walked past Hall Master. Hall Master stared at the medicine bottle in his hand, as though he was hesitating, but he didn't stop them from leaving. After walking for a distance, Hall Master suddenly tightened the medicine bottle as he raised his head and looked towards the direction where DMO Xian and Yi Qing Luo had left. Coincidentally, the young lady was hooking the man's neck as she patted his head, indicating for him to stop. This action, on the Overlord, it totally subverted everyone's understanding. But DMO Xian's face didn't show any signs of displeasure. Instead, he stopped in his tracks as he held the young lady's hand, which was pressed on his head. His gaze was gentle and affectionate. Everyone could see that. How much importance did the Overlord place on Yi Qing Luo? No wonder Yi Qing Luo would fall deeply into the Overlord and not choose Zhu Wu Xin. Hall Master swallowed back the words which were at the tip of his tongue. But that young lady who happened to meet his eyes slightly raised her red lips as her smile was extremely cold. Help me pass a message to Zhu Wu Xin. Her voice was clear and cold. There weren't many emotions in it. I will remember what he did clearly. He won't have another chance. His words fell. A gust of wind blew over. The two figures in front of him had already disappeared. The temple master grabbed the bottle and took 2 steps forward. What do you mean by that? What next chance? Archer. A familiar voice suddenly sounded behind him. The palace master's body suddenly stiffened. The expression on his face changed several times. Finally, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. He slowly turned around and said, Qing Bing, why are you? He stopped talking when he saw the person behind him. His gaze fell on the man beside the woman, who was in so much pain that he was covered in cold sweat. Zhu Wuxin, what the hell are you doing? The temple master was so angry that he rushed forward and grabbed Zhu Wuxin from the woman's hands. Zhu Wuxin grabbed his arm tightly, his cold eyes searching around. Where is she? Where is she? You still have a mood to ask her. The temple master clenched his teeth as he opened the bottle. Don't you know your own situation? I asked you to rest in your room, but can't you just listen to me? Are you going to torture yourself until you're crippled before you're satisfied? This book came from Chapter 4409. The temple master poured out an elixir and wanted to feed it to him, but his wrist was firmly held by Zhu Wuxin. Where is she? Where is she? His grip was extremely strong. The temple master's hand was shaken, and he almost dropped the bottle on the ground. His eyes suddenly darkened, and his face turned ashen and ugly. He suddenly stood up and shook off Zhu Wuxin's hand. Where is she? Where is she? Do you only know how to ask where she is? Do you know why I'm here? I'm worried about you and care about you. That's why I came here from so far away. I don't want to see you torture yourself here. You want to know where she is, don't you? Let me tell you. She left with Dizun. She left with Dizun. She left without any hesitation and without any hesitation. The temple master bellowed angrily. He grabbed the jade pendant at his waist and threw it heavily on Zhu Wuxin. You heard what she asked me to tell you with your own ears, didn't you? Do you need me to repeat it? The jade pendant hit Zhu Wuxin's body. Pushed by the temple master, Zhu Wuxin staggered and fell to the ground even with the help of the woman. The jade pendant hit him. Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes slightly shrank, but he still said nothing. The temple master clenched his fists, raised his head slightly, and took a deep breath. He tried his best to control his emotions. Then he stared at Zhu Wuxin and said word by word. She said that she will remember clearly what you have done. You won't have a second chance. His every word caused Zhu Wuxin's body to tense up even more. A gloomy aura emanated from Zhu Wuxin's body. The surrounding air seemed to have solidified. The palace master did not stop speaking because of Zhu Wu Xian's silent protest. Zhu Wu Xian, you should know better than anyone else what her words mean. The only person she could see and keep in her heart was the venerable sovereign. Is it useful to torture yourself? Is it useful? Archer, when the woman heard the palace master's words, which were getting more and more out of control, she immediately frowned and snapped at him. The palace master's body suddenly stiffened. His gaze, which was filled with pain and anger, slowly landed on the woman. The woman pursed her red lips and opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, when he glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxin, he pursed his lips. The palace master shut his eyes tightly and raised his hand high. He wanted to throw the medicine bottle at Zhu Wuxin, but when he was about to fling it out, he gritted his teeth and retracted his strength, throwing it at Zhu Wuxin just like that. The medicine bottle rolled and rolled to Zhu Wuxin's feet. The hall master turned around and said in a tense tone, "It's up to you whether you want to live or die. I don't care anymore." After saying that, he flicked his sleeve and disappeared before their eyes. "Archer," the young woman called out anxiously. However, before she could do anything, his aura was completely gone. The woman felt helpless. She looked at the pale man beside her, whose face was filled with pain. She sighed as she slowly picked up the medicine bottle. Her exquisite face was filled with complicated emotions. Wuxin, the woman poured out the last pill from the bottle and placed it by Zhu Wuxin's mouth as she spoke softly. "Archer cares about you too much. He's angry, not because you like Yi Qing Luo, but because he can't take it anymore. You hurt yourself because of a woman." The pill was placed by his lips, but Zhu Wuxin didn't open his mouth. There was no expression on his face. His gaze was slightly dazed. This book came from Chapter 44:10. The lady's fingers which were holding onto the pill tightened as her slender fingers turned slightly white. "Ache cares about you more than anyone else. You should know this better than anyone else." Chu Wuxian finally had a little reaction. His eyelashes trembled slightly. He slowly raised his head and looked at the lady. The lady hurriedly moved that pill to his lips. "Don't let the people who still care about you worry about you. You being in this state, we will all be very upset." The woman's face was slowly reflected in Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes. He opened his mouth and swallowed that pill into his stomach. The lady heaved a sigh of relief and continued, "Don't be too sad. That person gave you the antidote, which means that he can't bear to really hurt you." Chu Wuxian's eyelashes trembled even more. His eyes were fixed on the woman without blinking. The lady smiled slightly. "After your body has recovered, go look for Ache. Now that the Overlord has already come to Heaven Realm, in this state of yours, how are you going to fight with the Overlord? Right? Emotion." Chu Wuxian's thin lips pursed slightly. He muttered these 3 words softly. Suddenly, he struggled free from the lady's support as he staggered as he stood up. "No, Yi Qing Luo cannot leave this place." Chu Wuxian, the lady's suppressed emotions finally couldn't hold it in any longer. "How much longer are you going to create a ruckus for? Have you really never thought about us?" Chu Wuxian clenched his fists tightly as his expression was gloomy and gloomy. The black fog in his eyes started to spread. "The rankings are about to begin. She must stay here. I cannot let anything happen to her." Chu Wuxian's voice and the fluctuation of his emotions was extremely huge. His words had just ended. He had already dashed towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo and Emotion had disappeared to. When he passed by the lady, his body collided heavily with the lady's shoulder. But he didn't turn back. The lady staggered backwards from the impact. After she finally stabilized herself, she slowly raised her head and looked at the man who was swaying but still forcing himself to move forward. She took a step forward, wanting to chase after him. But after taking a step, she stopped. Unknowingly, her eyes started to blur. Why? He would never be able to see her existence? Outside the Tianyao Ridge, the group of people waited anxiously for the return of the Overlord. Time passed slowly. 2 hours, 4 hours. The more time passed, the higher everyone's heart was. Especially in the Tianyar Ridge, there was not the slightest fluctuation. It was impossible to guess what the Overlord had encountered in there. Kitty Lee paced around anxiously. Why hasn't Dizun, brother-in-law, come out yet? Did he find his sister? Can't we go in and look for Dizun, brother-in-law? Zolimo pulled Kitty Lee into his arms and comforted her gently. Believe in Dizun. Let's wait a little longer. If Dizun doesn't come out in an hour, I'll woo and I'll go in and take a look. You? Kitty Lee quickly grabbed Zomo's collar and raised her head. I don't want you to go in. Zolimo chuckled and kissed her forehead. It's okay. Don't worry. Right? She will definitely be fine. The Overlord is so incredible, and our Qing Luo. She herself is a miracle, so nothing will happen to her. Yin Xiao used a certain tone to reply, but the way she gripped Xiao Jin's arm tightly betrayed the anxiety in her heart. This book came from. Chapter 44:11. Don't let your imagination run wild. Huang Fusheng raised his voice to cheer everyone up. Luo can bring us miracles one after another, so no matter when, as long as you are by her side, there will definitely be miracles. Their Yiqing Luo, their faith. Absolutely undefeatable. The few of them looked at each other, conveying the determination in their hearts to the other party. Just at this moment, Gui Wu, who was leaning against the tree trunk with his eyes closed, suddenly moved and landed in front of everyone. His expression was solemn as he stared ahead. Who's there? Gui Wu's words made everyone's emotions congealed. Zolimo swiftly stuffed Kitty Lee behind his back as he looked ahead vigilantly. Swish, 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 swish. In the dense forest, suddenly countless sharp arrows were shot from all directions. The speed was fast, and the momentum was violent. It was extremely shocking. What? Their reaction speed was extremely fast. When Gui Wu opened his mouth, everyone quickly switched to defensive mode. When the sharp arrows were shot down, everyone had already raised the weapons in their hands and slashed out all the sharp arrows. At this moment, Gui Wu also quickly formed an enchantment, enveloping everyone within it. There was still no sign of anyone in the surroundings, but thousands of sharp arrows were still shooting over. Bam! The sharp arrows were flickering with cold silver light as they heavily crashed onto the enchantment. Two waves of qi collided, giving off a sharp, ear-piercing sound. The sudden explosion of the profound waves set off layers upon layers of flying sand waves in the lush, dense forest. What's that? What's going on? The group of people looked around with a grave expression, trying to find traces of someone. And at the same time, in the midst of the flying sand, everyone saw that a huge crack had suddenly appeared in the horizon. Immediately following that, they saw people dressed in black robes, neatly walking out from that gap. Their pupils shrank immediately. Secluded palace. These people in front of them, weren't they dressed in the secluded palace's attire? How did this group of monsters come to the heaven realm, and even followed them to Tianyar Ridge? That patch of black-robed people, about 100 of them walked out. The gap in the sky slowly closed up. Is it a miracle? A charming voice was exceptionally obvious in this quiet and tense atmosphere. Then, the black-robed man, who had wrapped himself up tightly, slowly opened up a path. A fairy-like young woman in a long white dress walked over with a flirtatious demeanor. The woman covered her red lips sweetly. Her voice was so soft that it could make one's bones go numb. She will have a miracle, but do you think that you will have a miracle? Everyone's faces turned cold, and they quickly gathered together, looking at the woman nervously. Yin Xiao stared at the woman and sized her up. After a long while, a figure suddenly appeared in her mind. You are Bai Mei. This grace was too obvious. However, that face was obviously different from a Bai Mei in his memory. Bai Mei should be in her 30s or 40s. How could he be so young? The woman giggled and touched her face charmingly. I didn't expect that someone would recognize me. But even if you recognize me, there's no reward. It's really you. Yin Xiaoyi's expression sunk. You actually joined the secluded palace? What do you want to do? Of course I want to kill you all. Bai Mei's brows were filled with smiles. I really want to see Yi Qing Luo's flustered expression. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address. Phone reading. Chapter 44:12. You're here. Doesn't it mean that Qing Luo is really in Tianyaridge? Huang Fu Sheng asked. Bai Mei held her chin as she smiled brightly. Don't worry. I will leave you with your last breath and let Yi Qing Luo see you one last time. As she smiled, the hostility between her brows suddenly became sinister. Go! In a split second, the originally dim sky, which was covered by the dense forest, had completely darkened. Like a huge black fog, it shrouded the entire sky. The strong gale at this moment was like a soaring dragon, rolling and blowing everything in the surroundings. Gui Wu's enchantment, under this black fog, was actually on the verge of collapsing. Master Gui Wu. Yin Xiao Yi and the rest leaned against Gui Wu's side, looking ahead vigilantly. Even Gui Wu's enchantment couldn't fight against this sudden surge of energy. The other party came prepared. Gui Wu said expressionlessly, Someone is targeting me. You guys be careful. After so many exchanges, how could Secluded Palace not know of Gui Wu's existence? Gui Wu's voice just landed. Rumble. A deafening explosion was heard, exploding in the air. The strong, profound light directly exploded Gui Wu's enchantment. Fortunately, after Gui Wu's reminder, everyone had already made the most appropriate adjustments to themselves. After the enchantment exploded, everyone dodged in time. Without the protection of the enchantment, everyone could clearly feel a vast and powerful pressure, almost squeezing their internal organs to the point of exploding. Gui Wu was about to open up the enchantment again. Suddenly he saw a figure rolling out from the crowd. A strong, profound wave directly penetrated Gui Wu's unformed enchantment. I'm sorry, my mission today is to stop you. Deliberately using profound energy, the tone of the voice was changed, sounding extremely cold. Yin Xiaoyi's gaze fell on that person. The identity of that person immediately appeared in her mind. Secluded Palace. Palace Lord on the surface. That person, wasn't he the Palace Lord of Secluded Palace on the surface? That Palace Lord who seemed to have some thoughts about Qing Luo previously? It's him. Hearing that, everyone looked at the Palace Master of Nether Abyss Palace. Why is he here? No one answered this question. The Palace Master of the Secluded Darkness Palace directly attacked Gui Wu. His attack was swift and fierce, without the slightest hesitation. Gui Wu walked up expressionlessly. The Palace Master of the Netherworld Palace moved. The 100 black-robed men that descended from the sky also quickly launched their attacks. In an instant, the air was filled with sinister, killing intent. Be careful. Zhou Mo swept his gaze over the group of people beside him, then immediately raised his hand and slashed out a monstrous wave of air, dispersing the incoming hurricane. He hugged the cute girl in his arms tightly, and his voice was solemn, no longer as frivolous as before. I'm afraid Ao Wu won't be able to protect everyone. The other party has more people, and each one of them isn't weak. You have to be careful. He paused for a moment, and his pitch suddenly rose as he said word by word. If you want to live to see Xiao Qing Luo, then protect yourselves well. Don't let yourselves die. Bang! The deafening explosion of the profound wave collided with the violent hurricane. The intense vibration of the profound rays swept through the air. After Zhou Mo's words rang, everyone's tensed-up hearts, at this moment, seemed to be filled with endless battle intent. Between their brows was a look of unswerving determination. Update speed is the fastest. Hurry up and read it. Download address. Cell phone reading. Chapter 44:13. They wanted to live. Only if they were alive would they be able to see Qing Luo. They absolutely must not become Qing Luo's burden. They absolutely must not drag Yi Qing Luo down. The young lads and young ladies, under the power of faith of a person named Yi Qing Luo, each and every one of them actually erupted with a power that was even more shocking than usual. For a time, more than 100 people were unable to easily capture them according to the plan. Instead, it made the other party more courageous as they fought, injuring quite a number of them. Of course, the world group's few people were also heavily injured. The air was filled with a thick stench of blood. Miserable cries reverberated through the entire sky. Bai Mei stood on a big tree by the side as she looked at the scene in front of her with an impatient look. Her charming brows were filled with impatience. Really useless. She kicked away the black-robed man who was sent flying in front of her as the expression on her face turned even more alluring and gaudy. But the viciousness between her brows was filled with murderous intent. Her gaze swept towards the palace lord of Seclusion Palace who was still entangled with Gui Wu, but was unable to injure him at all. She suddenly flew up, and her majestic, profound energy broke through the surging, profound wave, which was formed when the both of them were entangled. Her figure was swift and violent as she charged towards Gui Wu at lightning speed. Bai Mei's target was very clear. She wanted to finish off Gui Wu together with the palace lord of Seclusion Palace. To them, Gui Wu was the core of these few brats. As long as Gui Wu fell, how long could these few brats continue to be arrogant for? Gui Wu had not expected that someone would suddenly launch a sneak attack. He turned sideways, and his palm wind flipped as he struck down horizontally. The profound light opened up a barrier and blocked Bai Mei's attack. The palace lord of Seclusion Palace retracted his hand as he flicked his sleeves and looked sideways at her. What do you mean? Useless trash. Bai Mei didn't conceal her disdain. Trash brought out a bunch of trash and can't even deal with a few trash. Bai Mei. The eyes under the black robe of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace suddenly darkened. His eyes were filled with coldness. Since you have a problem with me, then get out of this mission as soon as possible. Bai Mei rolled her eyes as she gave a sweet, ridiculing laugh. Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking about. Still thinking of helping Yi Qing Luo, that little slut, to keep these people alive? Do you think she'll be grateful just because you did that? Bai Mei covered her mouth and continued to mock. She won't. From the moment you became the palace master of the Dark Palace, you and she will only walk two different paths. Shut up. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace snapped. Her tone was filled with rage. Bai Mei, what I'm thinking has nothing to do with you. If you want to do the support mission, then shut your mouth. If you don't want to do the mission, then scram. TSK. Every time you open your mouth, it's about the mission. In that case, our palace master of the Netherworld Palace has completely abandoned all feelings. Bai Mei dragged out her tone as she looked at him with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace's eyes were extremely cold as he clenched his fist tightly. His fist wind was filled with strong, profound energy, and the surrounding hurricane also underwent a huge change. Bai Mei raised her brows disapprovingly. Why? Still want to hit me? Why don't you try? The two of them looked like they were at each other's throats as they looked aggressive. Gui Wu's gaze changed slightly as his peripheral vision swept across the crowd towards the few people who were surrounded by the black-robed men. His emotionless eyes were filled with a slight fluctuation which couldn't be seen. Following that, he leapt up and headed towards the direction of Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest. He just turned around. A cold laugh was heard from his back. Chapter 44:14. Master Gui Wu, haven't you heard of this saying, when fighting, don't easily turn your back to the enemy? Bai Mei giggled delicately. Her laughter was full of killing intent. Gui Wu suddenly stopped in his tracks. His body reacted quickly. He leapt into the air and counterattacked with a backhand. But no matter how fast his reaction was, Bai Mei's piercingly cold, profound chi was already heading straight for his fatal spot. The speed was so fast that it carried a strong, killing intent. Oh, Wu, Zoemo had noticed Gui Wu flying towards them just now. Before he had time to face Gui Wu, he saw Bai Mei approaching from behind the ghost martial artist. Master Gui Wu! Master Gui Wu! Everyone shouted worriedly. But there was no one who could stop the imminent attack. This series of events happened in just a few breaths. Bai Mei's piercingly cold attack had already fallen on Gui Wu. Bang, bang, bang. A loud sound of collision suddenly rang out. In the air, there seemed to be an explosion of air waves. The surging, profound waves were flowing wave after wave. The entire dense forest, the broken branches of trees and grass, were all sent flying into the sky. Bang! Another powerful, profound wave fell. Shortly after, a figure was blasted away by the Xian wave. When the figure landed, he violently coughed out a large mouthful of blood. That cough, it was a woman's voice. The one who was sent flying was not Master Gui Wu. Yin Xiao, Yi, and the others were a little stunned, looking incredulously at Bai Mei, who had fallen to the ground with a twisted face and was vomiting blood. What was going on? The profound wave, under the hurricane, gradually dispersed. Gui Wu's figure was also revealed. He stood where he was unscathed. Master Gui Wu. Their hearts skipped a few beats. Seeing that Gui Wu was unscathed, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Gui Wu looked at his hands, and then at Bai Mei, who had been sent flying. He slightly knitted his brows, just as he was about to open his mouth to say something. When he turned his head, he saw that the attention of those people was all focused on him. The black-robed people behind him obviously noticed this and launched an attack together. His face darkened as he shouted, "Do you think you can be distracted on the battlefield?" As his voice fell, he raised a long sword in his hand and threw it at those people. The sword wave caused by the long sword forced the black-robed men to retreat a few steps. They immediately came back to their senses and rejoined the battle. Oh, Bai Mei groaned in pain and crawled up from the ground. She clutched her chest with one hand. He quickly touched his face with one hand to make sure that his face hadn't fallen off. It's her. The voice of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace suddenly became tense. He raised his head and looked at the sky without blinking. Her. Bai Mei furrowed her brows and immediately looked in the direction of the palace master's gaze. That little bitch? Is she finally willing to show up? He raised his head. The disgust and hatred on her face froze on her face. On the horizon, a huge white nine-tailed fox stood in the air. And on top of the nine-tailed fox sat two figures intimately embracing each other. The girl sitting in front was wearing a blazing red dress, like a blooming fire lotus. Along with the profound wave, her dress fluttered in the wind like a jumping flame. And behind her, with his arms around the girl's waist, was a man in purple with a cold expression, like an unattainable god, overflowing with youth and peerless elegance. Only when his gaze fell on the girl could one see the gentleness of his face. This scene, it was like a beautiful picture. Chapter 44:15. It's her. It's him. The two of them appeared. Those two figures appeared clearly in front of everyone's eyes. Bai Mei's face froze, slowly became distorted. Her 5 fingers subconsciously clenched tightly into a ball, whereas the palace lord of Seclusion Palace stared at the sky without blinking. The body under the black robe was tightly stretched, as though there was some kind of emotion surging, about to explode. It's Qing Luo, Overlord. Overlord really brought Qing Luo back. The few of them were so agitated that their eyes turned red. All of them stared at the sky, as though they wanted to confirm that the two of them were real and not an illusion. A dong sound was heard. Repeat 600 words. Change within 20 minutes. Moi in the air, as though there was an explosion. The surging profound wave flowed wave after wave. The entire dense forest, the broken branches of the trees, the grass, all flew up into the sky. Bam! Another strong, profound wave landed. Following that, they saw a figure being blasted away by that profound wave. When that figure landed on the ground, he violently coughed out a mouthful of blood. That cough, it was a woman's voice. The one who was sent flying was not Master Gui Wu. Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest were in a daze as they looked in disbelief at Bai Mei, who fell onto the ground, with a twisted face, spitting out blood. What was going on? The profound wave, under the hurricane, slowly dispersed. Gui Wu's figure also appeared. He stood on the same spot and scathed. Master Gui Wu. The few of their hearts skipped a few beats, but on seeing Gui Wu safe and sound, they heaved a sigh of relief. Gui Wu looked at his own hands, and then at Bai Mei, who flew out. He frowned slightly, just as he was about to say something. When he turned his head, he saw those few people's attention all focused on him. The black-robed men obviously noticed this as they all launched their attacks. His face sunk as he shouted sternly, "Do you think water on the battlefield allows you to be distracted?" As his voice fell, he raised the long sword in his hand and directly threw it towards those few people. The long sword stirred up a sword wave, causing those black-robed men to retreat a few steps. The few of them immediately regained their senses as they rejoined the battle. Oh, Bai Mei groaned in pain and crawled up from the ground. She clutched her chest with one hand. He quickly touched his face with one hand to make sure that his face hadn't fallen off. "It's her." The voice of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace suddenly became tense. He raised his head and looked at the sky without blinking. "Her?" Bai Mei furrowed her brows and immediately looked in the direction of the palace master's gaze. "That little bitch? Is she finally willing to show up?" He raised his head. The disgust and hatred on her face froze on her face. On the horizon, a huge white nine-tailed fox stood in the air. On top of the nine-tailed fox sat two figures who were embracing each other intimately. The girl sitting at the front was dressed in a blazing red dress that looked like a blooming fire lotus. Her dress fluttered in the wind along with the profound waves, looking like an excited flame. The girl sitting at the front was dressed in a blazing red dress that looked like a blooming fire lotus. Her dress fluttered in the wind along with the profound waves, looking like an excited flame. Behind her was a purple-clothed man with his arms around the girl's waist. His face was cold, like an unattainable god. He was overflowing with youth and peerless beauty. Behind him was a purple-clothed man with his arms around the girl's waist. His face was cold, like an unattainable god. He was overflowing with youth and peerless beauty. Only when his gaze fell on the girl. This scene, it was like a beautiful picture. End of this chapter. Chapter 44:16. DMO Xian's eyes were calm. So calm that she couldn't tell what he was thinking. Or perhaps, to him, Bai Mei was just a passerby without any sense of existence. She couldn't arouse any unnecessary emotions from him. That cold gaze made Bai Mei's heart ache. The malevolence and distortion on her face uncontrollably stretched out. She wasn't willing to reveal any ugly look in front of DMO Xian. But, looking at the young lady who was smiling like a flower by DMO Xian's side, she couldn't control her emotions. Bai Mei, DMO Xian's voice was very calm, even if it was just a form of address. Bai Mei's heart couldn't help but soar. She knew she loved DMO Xian. Since the first time she saw DMO Xian by her sister's side, she had fallen deeply in love with that man who was younger than her. His every move, he could easily affect her everything. Bai Mei's eyes stared greedily at DMO Xian, as though she wanted to imprint him deeply into her mind. Her sentimental gaze was somewhat scorching. TSK. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she leaned into DMO Xian's arms and raised her little head. "My Xian is really popular." That affectionate gaze, did it hook you? DMO Xian pinched her waist as he bent down to whisper in her ear, "Is it worth for you to ask such a question to an unimportant person?" His words paused slightly as his husky voice revealed a faint smile. "But, Lil Luo can try to look at me affectionately, to see what the consequences will be." That husky voice, between the words, there was a faint magnetism. Lightly beside her ear, he breathed out hoarsely. Inexplicably, it was tainted with a kind of ambiguous atmosphere. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed slightly. She raised her head and stared at Mo Xian unhappily. Her raised little hand even hammered twice on his chest. Mo Xian's whisper earlier, although it wasn't loud, but it was clearly transmitted into by May's ears. The 4 words, unimportant. Like a clap of thunder, it heavily exploded in by May's mind, especially when he saw Yiqing Luo and Mo Xian acting as though no one else was around. The flames of jealousy burning in his chest could not be suppressed. Yiqing Luo, don't be too complacent. Do you think you'll be safe and sound? Bai Mei sneered as she raised her head and looked at the lovey-dovey couple in the sky. A thick black mist surged around her. The swirling mist exuded a nauseating chill. Bai Mei, Mo Xian merely shot a glance at the thick black Inchi. Your sister wants to see you. The expression on Bai Mei's sinister face froze for a moment. However, it was only for an instant. She smiled charmingly and said, My sister? Do I still have a sister now? She doesn't even think of me as her sister. She sneered again and added a bit of mockery to her smile. What? Even until now, you still want to use kinship to influence me? Mo Xian, do you think a sister who can personally send me to the heavenly prison, will I still want her? Toward Bai Mei's mockery, Mo Xian remained expressionless, until Bai Mei finished her mockery. He then replied with a faint, oh, and continued, which means you don't intend to meet your sister and don't intend to go back. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address. Phone reading. Chapter 44:17. Bai Mei's fingers suddenly clenched tightly. She clenched her fists tightly, just as Mo Xian had lost his patience and was waiting for her reply. Suddenly, she raised her hand and covered her lips as she started giggling. That smile was gorgeous beyond compare, but her brows were incomparably gaudy. Overlord, her voice was exceptionally seductive, with a hint of bewitchment. Kinship indeed has no way to soften my heart, but if Overlord is willing to give me love, perhaps you can let me let go. Such daring words. The entire dense forest fell into a strange silence. Bai Mei giggled delicately and even threw flirtatious glances. Apparently, she had already given up on herself. Bai Mei. Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice interrupted Bai Mei's laughter. Bai Mei's laughter paused as she looked towards the direction of the voice. Her vision turned black. Something was coming toward her. She had yet to react in time. That thing was plastered on her face. The sticky, warm thing slid down along her face, and more than half of it slid directly into her mouth. A fishy stench, and that indescribable taste in her mouth instantly made Bai Mei collapse. She screamed. While spitting on the thing in her mouth, she raised her hand, trying to wipe the thing off her face. Above her head floated a young lady's leisurely laughter. Be careful. If you wipe too hard, this face of yours will not be able to keep. Bai Mei's raised hand instantly froze. That fishy stench. It made her stomach roll. This is the most precious. Sacred beast feces. Eat more of it. It will strengthen your body. No need to thank me. Yiqing Luo continued with a beaming smile. Sacred beast. Feces. These 3 words, made Bai Mei's face, turned pale in a swoosh. Instantly her stomach churned, and she started to vomit in big mouthfuls. Bai Mei, my man, is he someone whom you could dream about? Have a good taste of this precious sacred beast feces, and calm down. Yiqing Luo's voice suddenly became piercingly cold and gloomy. Her words were filled with warning. Her, flirting with her man in front of her. Eat a mouthful of shit and suppress that unrealistic fantasy. Bai Mei covered her mouth as she raised her head and stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Something sticky slid from her face to her body. An even more fishy smell assaulted her nostrils. A palm-sized bird was still flapping its wings, circling around the nine-tailed fox, flapping back and forth. Yi Qing Luo, just you wait. Ba Mei was flustered and exasperated. The stench and stickiness on her body made her feel so disgusted that she almost collapsed. She threw down a sentence. His whole body was like an arrow released from a bow, rushing into the dense forest. Childish or not, Qi Yin gave Yi Qing Luo a supercilious look. If its poop was placed in the beast clan, it would be worshipped. Now, Yi Qing Luo actually used it to disgust another lady. Qi Yin felt that it was really a waste of heaven's gifts. Yi Qing Luo leaned into Mo Xian's arms and smiled wickedly. So what if I'm childish? As long as it works. Her smile suddenly disappeared as she looked down at a certain place. Her gaze was very calm. Looking at that figure, it was as if she was looking at a stranger. Little Nine, go down. Yi Qing Luo patted the nine-tailed fox. After Little Nine landed, Mo Xian carried Yi Qing Luo and walked down. The person opposite them was the person whom Yi Qing Luo was looking at earlier. Palace Lord, a secluded palace. Update speed is the fastest. Hurry up and read. Download address. Mobile phone reading. Chapter 44:18. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly as she spoke calmly. Do you want to continue fighting or get lost? Her arrogance was extremely arrogant. The moment the young lady appeared, the eyes of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace were all focused on the girl, until the young lady walked in front of him. Their four eyes met at a close distance. He then regained his senses. Luckily, the black robe covered his face. It also covered his panicked expression at this moment. The Overlord is here. This battle has no meaning anymore. He laughed bitterly. His tone was filled with some unfathomable emotions. He really admired Yi Qing Luo, under the circumstances where she obviously had no profound energy. She even dared to provoke him in such a brazen manner, only because she was wholeheartedly trusting the man behind her, wasn't she? A lady like Yi Qing Luo. She was able to entrust everything she had to a man without any worries. This meant that she really loved that man. This knowledge made the heavy pressure in his heart even more unbearable. Towards the palace lord's concession, Yi Qing Luo didn't say another word. Holding Mo Xian's arm, she walked towards her brother. The palace lord suddenly chased 2 steps forward. Yi Qing Luo? There was a hint of urgency in his voice. Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks, and when she turned back, the glint in between her brows was calm and indifferent. As though, looking at him, he was really a stranger. Such a strange feeling. It made him feel that it was difficult to breathe. You want to leave Heaven Cliff Ridge? He suppressed the discomfort in his heart, making his voice sound normal. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Why? Want to fight? Earlier, by Mei's words, don't you understand what she meant? He clenched his fists tightly. After leaving Heaven Cliff Ridge, even if the Overlord is around, he won't be able to protect you. Do you know that? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked suspiciously at the palace lord. What do you mean? He opened his mouth as though he wanted to say something, but his gaze swept towards the other side at the hundreds of black-robed men. He threw a glance at Yi Qing Luo. His tight black robe fluttered as a strong gust of wind blew wildly. A terrifying qi wave instantly enveloped Yi Qing Luo and Mo Xian. But in an instant, he had already lost sight of the 3 of them. Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest immediately jogged up and stood at the place where Mo Xian was standing earlier, looking around. Where is he? That secluded Darkness Palace Lord. Where did he bring Qing Luo and the Overlord to? Master Gui Wu, what should we do? Qing Luo and the Overlord. They looked at each other, their faces filled with worry and nervousness. Gui Wu's face was expressionless as he said indifferently, Zun is here. It's fine. The air wave that attacked the palace master of secluded Darkness Palace. Mo Xian did not stop her. After the qi wave dispersed, The three of them had already arrived at a relatively deep part of the forest. What are you trying to say? Yiqing Luo looked around, and there wasn't anyone else around. Did you think that by hiding here, the real mastermind of secluded Darkness Palace would not find out? No. The palace master of Gloomy Palace lowered his head. His black robe covered all his emotions. Yiqing Luo didn't say another word. She didn't know if he believed him, or if he was still suspicious. The palace master of Gloomy Palace's expression sunk slightly, but the words that came out of his mouth were unusually gentle. No matter if you believe me or not, I just don't want to see you get into trouble. The fastest update. Hurry up and read it. Download address. Cell phone reading. Chapter 4419. Finishing his words, perhaps he was afraid that Yiqing Luo would ridicule him, or perhaps Demo Xian's cold gaze was somewhat penetrating. He continued, the Heaven Realm has now gathered people from all the major forces, and they all want to obtain you. Get her. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Get me? In order to prevent any accidents from happening on the leaderboard, the secret of your profound jade heart has been exposed. Those ambitious people all want to get your profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo exclaimed, profound jade heart. From Nirvana Realm to Earth Realm, and then to Heaven Realm. What secluded Darkness Palace wanted from her? It had always been this profound jade heart, and this body of hers. It was said to be some profound jade heart's container. The person behind secluded Darkness Palace actually spread this news? Or the other party was confident that among so many people, he had 100% chance of getting her? Yes, and not only about the profound jade heart, but also secluded Darkness Palace. Lord muttered to himself for a moment as a strange expression surfaced on his face, and also the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb is also on you. Divine Emperor's tomb? What does that person want to do? Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Secluded Darkness Palace Lord shook his head. This matter is very complicated. Master doesn't trust me, and I don't know much. He paused and continued. Regarding the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb on you, and the news of the profound jade heart, were all spread from Bone Lord. As for the reason, it seems that Master schemed against Bone Lord. Bone Lord is your uncle's identity in Heaven Realm. So the moment this was said, no matter if it's true or false, those ambitious forces all want to give it a try. Especially, Huangfu family also revealed your relationship with the Overlord. Everyone is guessing that the Overlord is with you because he has ulterior motives. While he was saying this sentence, his eyes widened. He deliberately raised his head and looked at Dmo Xian. But most of their attention was still focused on Yiqing Luo. It was as if he wanted to see something on her face that he wanted to see. However, the young lady frowned. Bone Lord? Barbaric Bloodbone King? How does he know about the Divine Phoenix profound jade heart? And what about the Divine Emperor's tomb? What's going on? From the start to the end, he had never used a suspicious gaze to look at Dmo Xian. Even after hearing what he had said, she still couldn't help but laugh. None of them doubted Dmo Xian. Just how much trust did he have in Dmo Xian? The palace master of the Abyss Palace lowered his eyes slightly. He was secretly amused by his actions. He felt that his probing was simply asking to be humiliated. It's not surprising that the barbaric Bloodbone King knows about you. Dmo Xian lightly patted the young lady's back, but he shouldn't easily say these things that will cause you trouble. It should be the same as what he said, being schemed by that person from the secluded palace. What does that person want to do? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips, raised her hand, and pressed on her heart. She was very clear how many people wanted this Divine Phoenix profound heart jade. From the Dark Organization to the Abyss Palace, are trying to think of a way. If this news were to spread out, the danger she faced was far more serious than she had imagined, especially in another, news about the Divine Emperor's tomb. Master's motive, I'm not sure. The palace master of the Abyss Palace's voice sounded a little desolate. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address. Phone reading. Chapter 44:20. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked at him. Before she opened her mouth, she saw the palace lord's line of sight suddenly turned towards Dmo Xian. Even though he was shrouded in a black robe, she could clearly feel that from his gaze, there was an aura of creating trouble. Immediately after, he scoffed lightly. His tone was obviously gloating. But I'm clear of one thing. Regarding the news of your profound jade heart and the divine emperor's tomb, Zhu Wu Xian is also aware of it. It was also because of this problem that Zhu Wu Xian and Master had a huge fight and the cooperation between the both of them broke down. Later on, Zhu Wu Xian left the palace lord. He obviously intentionally mentioned Zhu Wu Xian at this moment, just to make things difficult for Dmo Xian. Looking at Dmo Xian's calm and indifferent face, there were some slight changes in his expression. He then felt his heart was balanced. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression congealed slightly. She raised her head and looked at the man next to her. In this way, Zhu Wu Xian brought me away from the Gu residence and imprisoned me here is actually to protect me? The enchantment that he had set up around the residence was not to prevent her from leaving, but to seal her presence in case anyone tracked her existence. No wonder Zhu Wu Xian had been forcefully not allowing her to leave the residence. No matter what the reason is, Dmo Xian's large palm directly covered Yiqing Luo's eyes. In your mind, you cannot think of other men. Yiqing Luo hugged his hand which covered her eyes. Yes, 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 don't think. In my mind, there's only you. That tone was as though he was coaxing a child. Dmo Xian pinched her nose. The palace lord stared at this blissful and sweet scene. His 5 fingers were about to break. What kind of timing was this? They could still take the opportunity to be lovey-dovey. He felt that it was glaring to his eyes as he raised his hand and placed it by his lips, coughing hard. You guys temporarily hide in Tianyao Ridge for a period of time. Once you walk out of Tianyao Ridge, based on your current ability, how are you going to protect that profound jade heart in your body? Indeed, this was Heaven Realm, not Nirvana Realm, not Earth Realm. Anyone here stood up. Their abilities were the strongest among the strong, even with Dmo Xian's protection. But, driven by ambition and benefits, there would still be people who would want to try. What if he succeeded? He had obtained the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. Find out the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb. They would be able to surpass venerable sovereigns and stand above them. He might be able to guard against one, but he wouldn't be able to guard against the second. Was this the goal of the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness? It seemed that when the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. During this period of time, almost all the major forces have been searching for your whereabouts. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace saw that the two of them did not speak for a long time. He pursed his thin lips and pulled down his cloak, covering himself completely. The Tianyao Ridge is the most dangerous place in the Heaven Realm. Very few people go there. You can hide here as long as you can. I guess this place isn't safe anymore. Yiqing Luo pouted. Bai Mei had just left. It was definitely not just to clean up the feces on his body. Instead, he had gone to get reinforcements. No matter how dangerous the Tianyao Ridge was, under the absolute benefit, there would still be people who stepped into the Tianyao Ridge. Everyone was holding on to a fluke in their hearts. The palace lord of the Netherworld Palace also knew who Yiqing Luo was referring to. He gathered the black robe on his body and lowered his voice. That's all I have to say. I'll return to the Palace of Darkness first. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address. Cell phone reading. Chapter 44:21. Wait. Before he left, Yiqing Luo suddenly spoke out that, no matter if the news you told me is true or false, I still have to thank you. The body of the person under the cloak suddenly stiffened. The pressure around him seemed to have sunk a little. Towards Yiqing Luo's thanks, he totally didn't feel any joy. What he wanted was never Yiqing Luo's gratitude. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo's words was obviously filled with distrust towards him. even if he had to take the risk of being discovered by his master. He told her everything that he knew. She still didn't trust herself. The palace lord of Seclusion Palace shut his eyes heavily, and when he opened his mouth, his voice was extremely tight and cold. I just don't wish for you to get hurt, that's all. His words fell. He had already rushed into the dense forest, his figure disappearing. Yiqing Luo looked at his departing figure, still in a daze. A large palm clasped her head, pressing her into his arms. You're touched just like this? Still looking at my back view, reluctantly? That voice was magnetic and deep. She couldn't hear any anger, but instead heard a hint of alluring huskiness. If you want to chase after me, then hurry up and chase after me. That sour tone made the young lady's lips unknowingly curled into a smile. Yiqing Luo backhanded, grabbed that large palm, clasping her head, as she said smilingly, You said to let me chase, let go of me. Hugging so tightly, which part of him looked like he was asking her to chase after him. You really want to chase? The man's voice suddenly deepened, suddenly clasping her lower jaw, lifting her face up, making eye contact with him. That man's peerless, handsome face was imprinted in her pupils at a close distance. His face wasn't an angry expression. His thin lips curled into a slight arc, revealing a tinge of devilishness. Yiqing Luo. Even though she knew it was a trap, Yiqing Luo still had no backbone as she indulged in this trap. Her hands hooked onto Mo Xian's neck, her legs crossed around his waist, placing all her weight on the man. How would I dare to think? So, you're saying that you don't dare to? Not that you don't want to. A certain jealous man took advantage of the faulty wording to argue. Yiqing Luo expressed that this jealous man was really hard to coax when he pestered endlessly, but there was no other way. After all, this was her wife. Ah Pui, her future husband. He still had to coax her. The girl's smile became brighter and brighter as she rubbed her face against the man's body. Why would I chase him? Why would I chase after him? What kind of nonsense are you thinking about? A certain jealous man naturally accepted the girl's kiss. Those kisses were like feathers that tickled his heart. On the surface, he still pretended to be jealous. My little Luo is very popular. Look, one or two of them, in order to protect you, they can even disregard their own lives. A partner who gave up on working with you to lock you up in this safe place. One, risking his life to tell you information harmful to you. Mo Xian's voice paused slightly. His voice was even colder than before. He lowered his head as his chin rested on the girl's shoulder. His thin lips were very close to her ear. Don't you feel touched, little Luo? Yiqing Luo. This might be a suicide question. Her Xian's vinegar jar had been overturned. That would be an earth-shattering battle. Chapter 44:22. Yiqing Luo's hands, which were hugging his neck, froze when she met the man's eyes, which were full of charm and elegance. Between her eyes, there seemed to be a resplendent ray of light flashed past. She suddenly, both her hands hooked tightly onto the man's neck. Her pink lips curled into a coquettish arc. Xian is jealous. That enchanting smile, that sweet voice, was intentionally coquettish. It successfully made the man's gaze unnaturally shifted to the two sides. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes rippled with a faint teasing smile. Her slender fingers circled around the man's chest bit by bit, drawing circles. When Xian asked this question, I also want to know what Xian was thinking about. The young lady's bright, smiling face was like the scorching sun imprinted in his eyes. Mo Xian seemed to be teased by the young lady's words, as he felt somewhat helpless. Locking the young lady's lower jaw, he suddenly lowered his head and fiercely bit on her lips, before he hugged her tightly in his arms. I'm very unhappy. I know. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his chest, as her little head rubbed. When I saw Bai Mei, I was very unhappy too. Even if he knew, Mo Xian wouldn't give Bai Mei another look. She would still be unhappy. She had the impulse not to let Mo Xian and Bai Mei speak another word. because she knew that Ban Mei had a different way of thinking towards Dmo Xian. This was like, Dmo Xian didn't wish for her and Zhu Wuxian, or that palace lord of the secluded palace, to have too much contact. Because he knew, no matter if it was Zhu Wuxian or the palace lord of the secluded palace, no matter how many wrong things they had done, but their feelings towards her were serious. Yiqing Luo could empathize with him, so she understood Dmo Xian's current feelings. She raised her head from Dmo Xian's arms, as her lips curled into a sweet and warm smile. But, Xian, no matter if I will be touched by what they have done, I like your heart. This point will never, ever change. I like you. No one can replace your position in my heart. The young lady's voice was firm and sincere. After saying that, she tiptoed and took the initiative to kiss the man's lips. A trace of tenderness flashed past Dmo Xian's eyes. The unhappiness in his heart vanished into thin air because of the young girl's words and her kiss. He wrapped his arms around the girl's slender waist. He turned the tables. It went even deeper and swallowed the young girl whole. Cough, 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 cough. A few awkward coughs sounded from the side. He coughed. The two of them, who were hugging each other tightly, immediately separated and looked towards the source of the coughing. He saw a few figures were standing not far away. They were blushing and looking at them in embarrassment. Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. Why are you all here? It's not that we want to disturb you, but it's not a good time to be intimate. Yan Xiaoyi's tone was full of ridicule. Yiqing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's arm as she strode towards them. You'd better give me a reasonable explanation, lest I beat you to death. Yan Xiaoyi hurriedly stuffed him into Qiao Jin's arms, then pushed the person in front of her. That person who was pushed out stood together with Gui Wu, an old man dressed in glittering gold, dressed like a nouveau riche. Especially that glittering gold robe, the huge gold ingot was extremely eye-catching. Yiqing Luo didn't need to look at his face to know who this person was. End of this chapter. Chapter 44-23. God Thief, why are you here? Wasn't this the nouveau riche God Thief? Wasn't God Thief in Nirvana Realm? Why did he come to Heaven Realm? Why did she feel that everyone she met in Nirvana Realm had all come to Heaven Realm? Didn't it mean that every realm had its own set of laws? Weren't they 5 ghosts a little too mysterious? Somehow it felt as though the few of them could travel freely in any realm. Was this a tour? I'm worried about you, so I specially came over. Ghost Thief pounced over quickly. Before he could pounce forward, he was flung aside by Dmo Xian's sleeve. Yiqing Luo looked at Ghost Thief, who was rubbing the gold ingot embroidered on his body with a face full of grievance, and her lips twitched. You came alone? Isn't it enough to have me? Why do you still need that bunch of old men? Ghost Thief waved his hand. Then he sized up the 2 people he wanted to use. Just now, we saw that kid from the Palace of Darkness escape from here with heavy injuries. He even brought a large group of people from the Palace of Darkness away. We thought that something big had happened to you. I didn't expect that after you guys injured someone, you're still being so lovey-dovey here. Serious injuries? Yiqing Luo went into a slight daze as she raised her head and exchanged glances with Dmo Xian. She could roughly guess the reason why the Lord of Secluded Palace would do this. The 3 of them disappeared in front of the Secluded Palace's disciples. If there wasn't any fight, then they would leave unscathed. Those Secluded Palace's disciples would definitely be suspicious. He was really ruthless towards himself. Secluded Palace is not the main point. Gui Wu's cold voice interrupted Ghost Thief's nonsense. Ghost Thief just brought news now. The news that you have a Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade in your body and the whereabouts of the Divine Emperor's tomb has spread throughout the upper realm. We can't leave Tianya Ridge for the time being. Awu. Zhou Mo's eyes widened as he stared at Gui Wu in astonishment. You seem to... This is the first time you've said such a long sentence. Everyone rolled their eyes. Kitty Lee scratched him with her claws. Is this the time to be surprised? Can you look at the occasion? Guiwu didn't pay any attention to Zoemo. His gaze quietly looked towards Yi Qing Luo. Right now, a large number of people have already gathered in the Heaven Realm. They want to obtain your profound heart jade and the whereabouts of the divine emperor's tomb. I know. Yi Qing Luo nodded. It looked like Holy Pirate had come to the Heaven World because of this news. In other words, this news was not only spread throughout the upper realm. Anyone with a little bit of power and influence would have received this news. Right now, she was probably a bottle of water that had appeared in the desert. She was in high demand, and everyone wanted to have her. What do you intend to do? Guiwu didn't ask why Yi Qing Luo knew about this matter in advance. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers stroked her chin. Bai Mei has escaped, so she won't be able to stay in Tianyar Ridge for too long. Qing Luo, no matter what decision you make, we swear to follow you till death. Yes, we will all stand on your side. Fortunately, we came at this time. You won't be alone. The few people in the world group opened their mouths with grave expressions, swearing their determination. It was also indirectly stopping Yi Qing Luo's decision to let them leave Heaven Realm first. Since they had come to Heaven Realm, they also knew about the danger that Yi Qing Luo had experienced. How could they possibly turn a blind eye to it? How could they leave Heaven Realm in peace? Chapter 44-24. Those sonorous and forceful words were like an invisible energy pouring into Yi Qing Luo's heart. The lines on her face became gentle. You've chased me all the way to the Heaven Realm. How can I bear to let you leave? She let go of DMO Xian and walked towards Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest. Even if you want to leave, I won't let you leave. We're a team. If I'm in trouble, of course you can't escape. Seeing Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest appearing in front of her, Yi Qing Luo didn't ask why or how they came. She knew it better than anyone else. This group of young men and ladies, in order to chase up to her footsteps, to fight alongside her, had expended a lot of effort. Qing Luo, Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest hugged Yi Qing Luo. Ever since they parted in Nirvana Realm, they hadn't interacted well for a long time. The last time they finally met, it was on such an occasion. They were reduced to the secluded palace, threatening Yi Qing Luo's job, before they had the chance to feel the joy of reunion. Once again, they were facing separation. Perhaps he knew this. DMO Xian's vinegar jar didn't overturn. Ghost Thief also rarely quietened down. Over there was brotherly love. Guiwu glanced at the children and looked at DMO Xian. Let's have a chat? DMO Xian retracted his gaze from Yi Qing Luo. At the moment when he retracted his gaze, the pampering and tenderness in his eyes also dissipated in that instance. Guiwu turned around and walked towards another direction. DMO Xian followed slowly. After walking for a short distance, the brotherly love's playful sounds became softer. Guiwu then stopped and looked at DMO Xian. This matter, what do you intend to do? What do you think? DMO Xian asked back. Once the divine phoenix profound heart jade leaves her body, it will lose its effect. Guiwu said indifferently. This point, many people don't know, and even if this point is made public, I'm afraid no one will believe it. DMO Xian's dark red thin lips suddenly curled. His gaze was a little chilly. How can this lord be sure towards Lil Lu? There's no disloyalty? I thought, Guiwu replied calmly. DMO Xian chuckled. That's right. If he wasn't clear about it, then he wouldn't have allowed Guiwu and the others to appear beside Yi Qing Luo. He would turn a blind eye to it. It was only because Guiwu and the rest had no ill intentions towards Yi Qing Luo. Furthermore, their existence was able to protect Yi Qing Luo. Yes, they were by Yi Qing Luo's side in order to protect her. Or, to be more precise, it was to protect Yi Qing Luo's secret. But now, this matter had already reached the point where everyone knew about it. In order to protect Yi Qing Luo's secret, would the ghost martial artist do something to hurt Yi Qing Luo? a little of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, and Gui Wu's eyes darkened as he said word by word. If the clues regarding the divine emperor's tomb were to be made public, the world would be thrown into chaos. When Dmo Xian heard that, there wasn't a hint of panic on his face. His eyes were filled with laziness. His long eyelashes were slightly fluttering, as a silhouette flashed past his eyes. His thin lips curled slightly. His smile was calm and extremely indifferent. Whether the world is in chaos, destroyed or not, this lord doesn't care. As long as Lil Luo is safe and sound, that's enough. Chapter 44-25. Gui Wu's brows congealed slightly. He quietly looked at Dmo Xian's face and suddenly chuckled. But, if things really happen, I believe you will absolutely not stand idly by. The corners of Dmo Xian's lips only curled upwards, smiling but not saying a word. If you don't want anything to happen to Yiqing Luo, then guard her secret well. Gui Wu didn't continue to talk to Dmo Xian. Finishing this sentence, he walked towards the crowd. Ghost Thief leaned forward and used an ambiguous gaze to wander between him and Dmo Xian. What are you and the Overlord talking about? Do you still have to be so secretive? Gui Wu glanced at him and ignored him. Did you tell him about our plan? Ghost Bandit asked, following behind him. Gui Wu's footsteps suddenly halted as he glanced sideways at Ghost Thief. No. Then what are you whispering about? Ghost Thief rolled his eyes. I thought, you really have the guts to personally tell the Overlord our decision. Placing Yiqing Luo by our side, or rather, handing over the secret of the Divine Emperor's tomb to us. These words, will you tell the Overlord? Gui Wu looked at Ghost Thief expressionlessly. Ghost Thief's mind, imagine the consequences if he said these words to the Overlord. His whole body trembled a little. All right, he really didn't dare. With the Overlord around, he will protect Yiqing Luo more diligently than us. Gui Wu no longer cared about Ghost Thief as he strode back into the crowd. Yiqing Luo, who was hugging with her brothers, saw Gui Wu returning. Dmo Xian followed closely behind. She bounced towards Dmo Xian. The man naturally opened his arms and caught her. What are you discussing? Yiqing Luo's arms wrapped tightly around his waist as she raised her chin and looked at him. How to protect this secret on you. Dmo Xian tapped her little nose. Those people should be rushing into Tianyao Ridge soon. Are you afraid? Not afraid. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Between her brows, there was a flowing brilliance. With you around, I am not afraid of anything. It seems that in your heart, I am an invincible existence. Dmo Xian chuckled lightly as he caressed the young lady's face. Yiqing Luo nodded her head vigorously. Giving me so much pressure, aren't you afraid that I'll run away? Dmo Xian pinched her face. Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head. The space between her brows were like bright stars. You can't bear to. Dmo Xian laughed out loud as his arms held the young lady tightly in his embrace. The people around him, for some inexplicable reason, he was forced to eat dog food. Could he still play happily? The atmosphere had also eased up a lot. Yiqing Luo let go of Dmo Xian's hand as she surveyed the surrounding people, and her lips curled into a faint smile. If those people want to barge into Heaven Cliff Ridge, I'm afraid they will need a period of time. Before this, I hope that you can help me guard those people. I want to try to break the forbidden curse that Bloodbone Barbaric King had placed in my body. With her profound grade sealed, it was really inconvenient for her. The Bloodbone Barbarian King's original intention was probably to let her live peacefully in the Heaven Realm as the first miss of the Gu residence. In order to prevent her from escaping, or in other words, to prevent her aura from being too unique in the Heaven Realm and attracting the attention of people with ulterior motives. So the profound grade in her body was sealed. But things had already developed to such a stage. She had to make herself stronger. She cannot always rely on the people around her to protect her, to worry for her. She was also strong enough to protect herself. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address Phone reading. Chapter 44:26. However, things had already developed to this point. She had to make herself stronger. She couldn't always rely on the people around her to protect her and worry about her. She was also strong enough to protect herself. What do you want to do? Long Yunjian pursed his lips as his eyes darkened. All the energy in your body has been sealed. I can't sense your aura, even if I'm standing here. Long Yunjian had already made a contract with her. As Yiqing Luo's war pet, there should be a special connection between him and Yiqing Luo. But even though Yiqing Luo was standing right in front of him, he was unable to sense Yiqing Luo's presence. Exactly. Kitty Lee also can't sense you. Kitty Lee puffed up her cheeks as her spirited eyes were filled with mist, looking at Yiqing Luo angrily and worriedly. Now, no matter if it's the profound grade or the spiritual connection, they're all sealed. Yiqing Luo smiled. So I have to think of a way to undo this spell first. Don't force yourself. Long Yunjian hesitated for a moment. His azure eyes were filled with worry. Yiqing Luo hugged Mo Xian's arm. With Xian around, all of you can be at ease. But for you, the venom in your body has not been completely removed. If you feel any discomfort, remember to tell Ziqing, don't force yourself. The few of them gave each other a few more words of advice. Yiqing Luo then pulled Mo Xian along as she headed towards the inner region of Heaven Cliff Ridge. Gue Wu and Gue Bandit stayed where they were. The dangers of the Horizon Ridge were indeed as rumored. The slightest carelessness could very well cost them their lives. However, she had her golden thighs. Fearless, Yiqing Luo nestled in Mo Xian's arms, jumping left and right, not knowing how long she had been jumping for. Mo Xian then stopped moving. Yiqing Luo squirmed out from his arms. In front of him was a huge lake that would strike fear into the hearts of anyone who looked at it. It was like a double-sided mirror that had been cut in half from the middle, and the flow of the mirror made one dizzy. Violent energy waves surged on the surface of the lake. The surroundings were still filled with a lush forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. The sky was dark, and not a single ray of light could be seen. It was not strange for there to be a dense forest. But this lake was really too strange. Yiqing Luo looked at the lake in puzzlement. Double-sided illusory heart lake. Mo Xian rubbed her head. When I was on my way to Tianya Ridge to look for you, I passed by this place. Passing by, this place was in a completely different direction from Zhu Wuxin's mansion hidden in the Horizon Ridge. Did he search the entire Tianya Ridge? It was no wonder that Mo Xian was so familiar with the path and walked straight to this place. Xian. Yiqing Luo's heart ached as she circled his neck. Silly. Mo Xian could tell what Yiqing Luo was thinking. He lowered his head and knocked his forehead against hers. Don't let your imagination run wild. The most important thing now is to remove the curse from your body. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as the hand around his neck tightened. You're always able to arrange my matters clearly. Earlier, it was Mo Xian who mentioned in her ear that he would first remove the curse in her body. He always knew exactly what she was thinking in her heart. She knew what she needed. Everyone only thought of protecting her, placing her in the safest position and accompanying her by her side. Only Mo Xian knew. Chapter 44:27. Xian, thank you. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a faint smile. Why are you thanking me? Mo Xian lowered his head and bit her lips. Go. I'll wait here for you to come back and thank me with your actions. Yiqing Luo. He really didn't forget to tease her no matter what. Yiqing Luo stared at Mo Xian. Then she shifted her gaze to the mirror-like lake that seemed to have been cut in half from the middle. Don't be afraid. I believe that with your willpower, you can definitely pass the test of the double-faced lake. Mo Xian gently stroked her hair. Xian's tone was very gentle. Even the fingers that were caressing her hair were so gentle. But Yiqing Luo could tell. Xian's tone was very heavy. It seemed like he was more uncomfortable than anyone else to make this decision. Willpower. Did she need to use her willpower to conquer this lake? She raised her head slightly and held the man's big palm, turned around and planted a kiss on his lips. After that, she moved away and looked at the man's handsome face with a sweet smile. Wait for me. The words fell. She let go of Dmo Xian's hand. She leaped. Her figure disappeared into the lake. She really didn't hesitate. Didn't she suspect that you were lying to her? At this moment, a woman's clear voice rang. In this quiet and lush forest, it was especially obvious. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with gentleness and pampering as he looked at the still lake with a smile on his lips. From Dmo Xian's sleeves, a wisp of green, smoke shadow floated out hazily. Gradually, it formed into a woman's figure. She looked at Dmo Xian with a look of disgust. Look at your rippling look. I know you are in love with each other. Don't show it in front of me. Dmo Xian slowly retracted his gaze and looked at the shadow beside him. What are you doing out here? Sigh, you have found a good girl. The woman sighed faintly. She has never doubted any of your words. This kind of trust, even I can't do it. Dmo Xian only curled his thin lips and smiled. The woman's shadow seemed as if it would dissipate with a gust of wind. She slowly moved to the lakeside. Aren't you worried that she won't be able to come back? No. Dmo Xian shook his head firmly. Baisu, her willpower is beyond your imagination. The woman, Baisu turned her head and looked at Dmo Xian with a complicated gaze. Then do you know that if she comes out from there, it means that she will know the secret of her body. It's time for her to know. Dmo Xian's vision fell onto the lake, as if he could see the young lady he loved deeply through the lake. His eyes were filled with gentleness. Even the lines on his face softened. She has too much on her shoulders, so she needs to grow up quickly. What I can do is to stay by her side so that she can move forward without any worries. Baisu floated one round around Dmo Xian. TSK. I suddenly understand why she would be so dead set on choosing you. The two of you are really a match made in heaven. She sighed and turned into a cloud of green smoke as she burrowed into Dmo Xian's sleeves. All right, I can't be bothered about the matters between you and your wife. Don't forget, don't kill my sister. If it wasn't for her, who had placed a strand of spiritual awareness on Dmo Xian, May would have been dead by now. How could there be a chance to escape from Tianyao Ridge? Chapter 44:28. On the other side, Yiqing Luo had just dived into the double-faced lake. Then she felt an extremely cold feeling enveloping her whole body in an instant, as though she was in an ice cellar. The bone-piercing chill had eroded everything about her. But even though she had sunk into the lake, she didn't feel any suffocating pain from diving into the lake bottom. Yiqing Luo surveyed her surroundings vigilantly. What entered her eyes was a sea of blue. Exquisite corals, seaweed, and pearls intertwined as they spread out neatly. Like an exquisite flower garden, the decorations were extremely beautiful. And after these decorations, there was a shell-shaped palace. The blue water was sparkling. Yiqing Luo felt as though she was rippling in the water. She only noticed at this moment her body seemed to be plastered with a layer of protective film. This layer of protective film separated her from the surrounding lake water, so that she didn't have the feeling of weightlessness in the water. This should be Dmo Xian did it when she didn't know. He did it for her. He was always like this, planning out her matters clearly. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as her brows were filled with splendor. Suddenly, a heavy sound was heard from the palace, interrupting Yiqing Luo's thoughts towards Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's brows raised slightly as she looked at the palace in front. What was that sound? There were other people or species existing at the bottom of the lake. Until she reached the bottom of the lake, Yiqing Luo still didn't know the real reason why DMO Xian asked her to come here. That sound, was it calling her over? Yiqing Luo hesitated for a moment before she lifted her legs and walked towards the direction of the sound. The reason why she appeared here was because she wanted to remove the forbidden spell within her. If she stood at the same spot, she could forget about leaving this lake forever. Xian was waiting outside for her to succeed. Her brothers were still waiting for her to return. She couldn't waste her time here, with this layer of protective film on her body. Yiqing Luo walked at the bottom of the lake as though she was walking on flat ground. Very quickly, she reached the entrance of the palace. She raised her hand, and her fingers tightened as she pushed open the icy, cold palace door. The palace door was like the mouth of a shell as it slowly opened. This made Yiqing Luo's heart inexplicably give birth to a conflicting feeling. She pursed her lips, gritted her teeth, and walked in. With a pong sound, the palace gate was tightly shut. The azure blue in front of him was instantly shrouded in darkness. Yiqing Luo immediately congealed her senses as she extended her senses to the maximum, surveying the surroundings vigilantly, sensing the movements in the surroundings. All around, there was only the sound of flowing water. Tick-tock. A drop of water in this quiet darkness was extremely clear to the ear. Immediately following that, a ray of light appeared in front of Yiqing Luo. That light was shining on something. It was faintly discernible, a bit dusky. Yiqing Luo followed the light and walked over. Then he saw that under the faint light, it shone on a wall. A stone wall. Yiqing Luo inexplicably felt a sense of familiarity. She cautiously took a few steps closer. The mural on the wall was clearly reflected in his eyes. It was a mural of a human figure. She had seen the mural countless times. It was a mural she saw when she was imprisoned in the palace by the mastermind of the secluded palace. Old Man Song said that the person on the mural was once the Lord of God Realm, the Emperor of Gods. Later on, she was still in the Earth Realm and was schemed by the secluded palace lord who pretended to be DMO Xian. This book came from Chapter 44-29. When she chased to the West Cliff Mountain, she was forcefully dragged into some underground cave by the vines, and had once seen that mural on the stone wall. On the human figure mural, the corresponding complex totem was exactly the same. Why was there this mural at the bottom of this lake? The last time in the underground cave, she had almost lost her life in the hands of the King of Darkness. It was this mural that suddenly became scorching hot. Then it saved her life. She entered the inner world of the mural. Yiqing Luo's fingers slowly caressed the mural. Could it be? Xian's meaning was to let her enter the inner world of the mural and absorb the azure water qi to break the curse in her body? But how was she going to enter the inner world of the mural? Yiqing Luo's hand touched the mural, and her fingers stopped on the pair of eyes on the mural. Previously, after she entered the inner world of the mural, then she met the real mural. The eyes on the mural could bewitch one's heart. She remembered, dripping her blood onto that pair of eyes. She then entered a graveyard. Could it be that in order to enter the inner world of the mural, she had to bleed first? Yiqing Luo looked at the mural for a long time before she raised her hand and slashed it fiercely, dripping her blood onto the mural. It was almost a moment's effort. There was a dull pain in her brain. Following that, a layer of thick red fog covered her eyes. That familiar, majestic graveyard appeared in front of her. Yiqing Luo vaguely felt that it was a little strange. But momentarily, she couldn't tell what was strange. The sky was filled with a gloomy and treacherous red fog, as though it was covered with a layer of blood water, making one's heart feel cold. Yiqing Luo followed her memory and walked closer to the graveyard. It was still the entrance in her memory, the stone door in her memory. Not knowing why, on top of that stone door, somehow, he felt as if a vague outline had emerged. Human figure outline, right? It was the human figure outline on the mural. It floated above the stone door. That human figure outline gradually became clearer and clearer. In the end, it was exactly the same as the real mural in her memory. Pure, elegant, beautiful human figure totem. It was as if a gentle woman had appeared in front of her. Especially that pair of eyes which were like the stars in the night, quiet and gentle, elegant and gentle. It was as if he could gently embrace her everything. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly tightened fiercely, as though something was piercing her heart. The Emperor of Divine Emperors. These words suddenly appeared in his mind. The faintly discernible woman in front of him. He was the Emperor of Divine Emperors. Yiqing Luo's heart started pounding heavily. His ears were filled with the sound of his heartbeat. In her mind, the words that old man Song had once said to her surfaced bit by bit. On the mural, it's the Emperor of Divine Emperors. The murals depict the vast water divine weapon, and the corresponding totem is the Divine Emperor's tomb. The biggest goal of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness is the tomb of the Divine Emperor. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly constricted. It was as if he suddenly understood something. No wonder. Only her divine phoenix, profound heart jade, could open the seal on the vast water divine weapon. No wonder. Only her blood could form a contract with the azure water divine weapon. No wonder. Every time she looked at the murals, she would have an inexplicable feeling that there was some kind of connection between her and the murals. No wonder. She could enter the inner wall of the mural and see the real tomb of the divine sovereign. Yiqing Luo's heart was thumping wildly. The thoughts in her mind gradually became clear. She and the Emperor of Divine Emperors must have some connection. This book came from. Chapter 4430. Her life experience was ominous, which meant there was a high possibility that she had a deeper relationship with the Emperor of God. Perhaps the answer could be found in the secret compartment, in the letter her mother wrote to her and Yi Fengyu. That map could be found. Her mother's letter had mentioned. This was a map related to her, and only she could use this map to reach the destination. And she had warned that if this map was known by others, it would bring about a fatal disaster. Initially, DMO Xian came to Nirvana Realm because of this map. Could it be that map was related to the Emperor of God's tomb? This thought made Yiqing Luo feel as though she was dreaming. The map to the Emperor of God's tomb was with her. This news was too shocking. She couldn't digest it. The scariest thing was, Old Man Song had once said this. Vast water god relic, in addition to her divine phoenix, profound heart jade, was the key to open the Emperor of God's tomb. Everyone in the outside world said that she had news of the Emperor of God's tomb. This was really not fake, but it was fine if the news of the divine phoenix, profound heart jade, was exposed. How could the Palace of Darkness possibly expose the news of the Emperor of God's tomb? The Emperor of God's tomb. That was a place which every cultivator from all the realms wanted to go to. After all, he was once the Emperor of God Realm, the most revered figure in the God Realm. There must be some secrets in the Emperor of God's tomb that she didn't know about. Otherwise, the mastermind of the Palace of Darkness wouldn't be so obsessed with the Emperor of God's tomb. Such important news. Why did the Palace of Darkness announce it to the public? Could it be that there wouldn't be any hidden expert who was tempted by this? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly. After knowing all these, the burden on her shoulders had become heavier. This was the only clue to her background. She must protect all the secrets of the Emperor of God's tomb. Initially, when Ah Xian saw this map, his expression was so complicated and heavy. At that time, she knew that this map hid a huge secret, but she didn't expect it would be huge to such an extent. Presumably, Ah Xian was aware of this point. Only then would he think of a way to dispel the curse in her body and raise her strength to the point where she could protect herself. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly one by one as a resolute expression surfaced between her brows. She wanted to become stronger. She had to protect the Azure Water Divine artifact, the Azure Water Bracelet, and the map that her mother had left her. Yiqing Luo raised her head abruptly. His eyes stared unblinkingly at the magnificent tomb in front of him. Murals. It was a mural of the Divine Emperor. She wanted to break the curse in her body through the tomb of the Divine Emperor. She pressed her hand hard on the door of the graveyard, on the human-shaped mural. At this moment, the aura in her body suddenly collided fiercely. There was a buzzing sound in his head. A strong aura instantly spread around his body. The thick red mist that filled the sky began to roll crazily. Yiqing Luo only felt boundless energy pouring madly into her body. She felt as if there was something inside her body that was squeezing and crashing against her. Oh, Yiqing Luo groaned. The painful and swelling feeling made her unable to take it. Her entire body was trembling slightly. The violent and vast aura was still surging unceasingly. As ozone poured into Yiqing Luo's body, rushing against her body. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading, that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.